Gotcha. All right. And we are here with Oida Voda, number 69 in the Ferrari here on board. Qualifying about 2.5 minutes in now. 15-minute qualifying session on board with the beautiful red Ferrari in 13th for now. No lap times, of course, but you can see how these turns are so important at this track here. Heading down the sweeping right-hander. Through turns 6 and 7, moving back towards 8 and 9 here. Yep. And coming up to the start-finish line here to start this first qualifying lap. Or to finish that first lap. Coming through turn 14, Sizz up onto the longest straight on the racetrack. We'll see what Oida's got for us here. First lap is a 1:48. We're going to ride along down through turn 1. PK in first gear, cruising through here at about 49 miles, 80 kilometers an hour. Very important to get on the brakes here, setting up for turn 2 of Hamilton. Third turn now going through spring, about third or fourth gear at about 102 miles an hour. It's very quick and technical through here, going through Mansell now, beginning the technical part of the track. Right on board here, the number 44, Blake Lewis. Wonderful McLaren livery there. We got a good mix of cars in here today as well. McLaren sitting on top of the fastest lap.
And, you know, it's, again, so apologies, folks, for the technical difficulties for the Hunter. You've done a fine job. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how a lot of these races come into a track like this, especially for qualifying, because as well as being a very tight, twisty track, it's also a very narrow one. There's not a lot of room, not only in terms of overtaking, but just for something like qualifying on those straights. It's going to be so difficult because it's one person brakes, everyone on the track is also going to brake because of that one person. So perfection is near enough needed, because if you mess up, then the person behind you is messing up, and then the person behind them is messing up. So it's a really interesting sort of qualifying stage. It's arguably the most interesting qualifying stage out there as a whole of any racetrack, just because of how limited you are in your mobility of this track. And as well, you're going to have a lot of back markers to come in and fight with. You're going to have to just try and, you know, overtake them, which is always dangerous in qualifying because you never know what can happen. And absolutely, for a lot of these cars, it's going to just be very, like, interesting to see what the plan is for qualifying, as Dan Leeson is going to be on professional pole, 144.982 right now.
Yeah, man, it's going to be very interesting to see how these guys tackle qualifying. Already we're seeing people stack up right here with Marius Isinger. It's very, very important to be able to have a clean track for your qualifying lap. And you were mentioning perfection just a moment ago, saying how important that is. And we're riding along with the man who was perfect last week, Sergio Vincio. Put on a clinic last week at Spa, looking to go back-to-back at the Hungaroring. But yeah, man, if there's one person we can see who can work their way through qualifying laps, I know this Aston Martin's, he's probably going to have it dialed in today. You can see him now. Yeah, he's taking turn 14, heading up the start finish right here. We'll see what his best lap is so far. Woo! Pole for Sotervincio at the moment. We were expecting really good things out of him. He did great last week. No, he's going to do the same this week. Already hauling. Now on board Dan Leeson, BMW driver. I believe he was in the Lexus last week. Moving over to German engineering. We'll see what he can do. Running a 1.44902. Very, very quick. Fourth on the grid right now. We'll see what old Dan's got for us today. That lap was not faster than his first. About 0.2 seconds slower, not too slow. He's looking to find some more speed, move his way up. Riding along with Blake Lewis now. That beautiful, beautiful McLaren. Looking really, really good here in that white and green. He is sitting in P2. Doing very good. Back on board with Sotervincio now. Got a Porsche following behind him. Porsche maybe going to watch and see how the... last pole sitter, Dan Leeson, on that last lap. Going to take pole. Blake Lewis behind him. That Aston Martin we saw last week just completely dialed in. Had that car working really nice. Taking that hard right-hander into turn one.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am back. Few technical difficulties, but I happened to get there in the end, and the Wasp has just entered my room, so if you hear me scream, that's why.
So maybe we'll pawn it off on the excitement on track. How about it, Matt?
Yeah, I'm fighting for my life over here, but Sotervincio, as you were just mentioning, that now taking provisional pole, 143.5. That is a second better, or just under. Actually, it's about half a second faster than Dan Leeson's in P2. Great drive from the Aston Martin once again, and that, I think, as you were saying, won that Silver Spa last week, and has not finished below second in his last 12 races, even though this is his Hungaroring debut. You've got to see this guy as a favourite.
Absolutely, man. I wouldn't count Sotervincio out if he was driving a soapbox, man. So after seeing what he can do last week in an unpopular car, back this week in the exact same ride, it's going to be hard not to put my money on this guy today.
Yeah, sames all across the board. And speaking of sames, we do have one of your more favourite drivers in Paddy Thomas.
Hey, my boy.
The number 88, currently in the pits now. Didn't have the greatest time at Spa last week, but there was definitely room. I mean, we gave him driver of the day and then he immediately crashed. So, but is Hungaroring something, especially with this McLaren, that Paddy Thomas can really make amends with?
I believe so, especially because, Spa is... It's such a tough track to drive. There's a lot of wide open corners, a lot of places where you can lose the car, especially Eau Rouge and Radeon coming up that hill, which is where we saw a lot of cars have issues last week. This week, there aren't as many high-speed zones that allow for accidents quite like that. But I do believe we are going to see more contact than we might expect.
Yeah, well, more contact. Speaking of contact, Wesley van der Linden, one of our more infamous drivers, especially in recent live streams after that Silverstone race. I think Wesley van der Linden and Michael Blom became quite an infamous rivalry over in the UK circuit. Still yet to drive with each other live on the stream again. Michael Blom's not in this race, but Wesley van der Linden, we've shown some consistency in how good he can be. P5 in his last Hungaroring, although did not finish his last race, which was at Zolder in Belgium. Is there high hopes for Wesley van der Linden today?
I could never count this guy out. If he's not going to be running in the top 3, I'd give him probably top 5. He's very fast driver, very consistent. It'd be very nice to see what he can do around this really technical circuit today. He did well at Spa last week. I say I give him a really good chance finishing top 5 today.
Meanwhile, on our qualifying, we do have Marius Issenger going up in second, pushing down, leads him down to third, as Chateau Vincho is just saying great laps after great laps. 1:42.5 is the current score to beat. To put that in time to beat, I should say. To put that into perspective, Marius Issenger in second, his best lap was 1:44.062. So a little bit off the pace, we'll say, but I mean, for a Hungaroring debut, this is already incredible. And if Chateau Vincho gets in first, then I think this could be a blowout.
Absolutely, man. Especially with how well we saw he can run a fast track like Spa. It'll be so great to see how his technical abilities are when you have to really lock in and be able to hit your marks.
Yeah, agreed. And something that we do need to mention as well, there is a lot of our top runners who are looking incredible. You know, we talked about Wesley van der Linden, we talked about Chateau Vincho. I believe you were talking about, I can't remember who we were talking about whilst I was having my issues with my internet. Thank you, Sky TV. But, no, we have Sky TV, Sky Broadband, but, you know, we do have a lot of skill on this course, but as well we do have a few debuts, not only for the Hungarian but for full Grip Motorsport itself. One of the main ones, I believe, is somewhere in and around this. It is indeed the BMW driver Valek Rybisk, who is making his full Grip Motorsport debut in the BMW today.
I love to see it. We love to see new faces around here, man. Growing the Full Grip Motorsport brand and community. It's so great to see.
Yeah, and if you do want to get involved and do want to see more of these faces, then you can subscribe to Full Grip Motorsport on YouTube or follow on Twitch, and you'll be able to catch up with each and every one of these races as they happen. But meanwhile, we are about to end off on qualifying. Chateau Vincho still in first for now. Marius Issenger in second. Dan Leeson in P3. I don't believe some of these guys are even setting laps. Vincho, Issenger, Leeson all not setting another lap. And Blake Lewis is going to be the one to take P2.
Woo!
And a lot of these guys are already in the pits, not wanting to set off a faster lap. It is Journet now. You can see just behind the Porsche there of, I believe that's Alan Asic. And looking to, yes it is, it's going around the final corner. Where will these two be in regards to the starting position? It is Journet, 15th place right now. Will stay P15. The Frenchman not able to get an improvement on their place, and you can see there is one of our Hungarian drivers coming round the corner. Shilagi Barnabas now coming round the hairpin and going wide. It's not great for the Hungarian driver, but could maybe be recovered. Although P16 right now is going to be difficult for them to find out, as you can see as well just behind him, Nikola Lukatic, the Croatian, stopping, having enough of this lap. Although if Shilagi Barnabas is wanting to go for this, maybe we could be seeing a big improvement from the Hungarian, and it's not going to be improvement. P16 for them still. And you can see this Ferrari coming in very, very latest. Arav coming in on this Ferrari and gets a position change to P19. So our top three going into the Hungaroring Grand Prix is Chateau Vincho in the Aston Martin P1, Blake Lewis in P2 in the McLaren, and Marius Issenger P3 with the Ferrari.
Lovely, lovely. Oh, very exciting, man. What a great qualifying session today. These guys getting setty, getting ready, getting set. Got about 2 minutes before the rolling start, flying lap. Oh man, very, very exciting today.
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting some of the preparation that some drivers have taken, others haven't, and one of those others is the Irishman Oscar Whitehead, who just before this was saying to us that there wasn't much preparation when it comes to him on this track. It's his Hungaroring debut, and it's also though even though it's a P3 at Monza, it's not really translating. 29th Lexus driver qualified in, so it's going to need one hell of a drive. But while we sit here for another minute and a half, Hunter, I want you to tell me, who is your favourite to win the race today?
Whew. Man, I really think that Aston Martin's calling to me. She's screaming ahead. Let's see, what was his... let me get my qualifying laps up here. I believe his fastest qualifying lap was almost a full second ahead of P2. It's really hard not to ride with my man Circuit Hungaroring today. But if we're not going with the obvious, I'm going with my man Paddy Thomas, driver of the day last week, number 88 in P6 today. Paddy Thomas is going to come home victorious today, in my opinion.
I mean, I've got to just say, you were saying if you don't want to go with a favourite, you're going to go with Paddy Thomas. I'm going to go with a favourite, and I think Circuit Hungaroring has shown us how quick this Aston Martin can be. I mean, on a track like the Hungaroring, I think it's going to be interesting to see how these corners and so on and so forth actually do take place. But, I mean, he's shown amazingness to come out of this track, a mastery of it, and I think it's hard to bet against him for winning this race. But you'll see the rolling start is going to get underway in 5 seconds. No, it's not going to be any weather conditions or any bad weather yet anyway. You can see only meant to be cloudy for now. But one thing I want to note as we get this formation lap underway is the fact that it's a very awkward start-finish line on this formation lap, because it's only on that hairpin and it's not that far from it. It's actually much more beneficial to be up front. Obviously it is, but it's really, really disadvantageous if you are going to be in the back.
Absolutely, especially coming up to any hairpin, especially right after the start-finish, it's going to be troublesome, especially the further you are back in the pack. Like Circuit Hungaroring, he's going to be fine. Hopefully, his ideal situation is he breaks away about a quarter of a second, half a second early, allowing him to take his corner the way he wants to, so he and probably back to about P2 or 3 are going to have a nice little breakaway in the front, but anywhere behind, it's going to be a cat fight. Going to be hard. Going to be extremely tough to get back up through the field. So you really want to take advantage, especially at the end of this formation lap and the start of the race when everyone is bunched up together. You want to make up as many positions as possible, capitalize on the mistakes of the person in front of you, and make sure you are not putting yourself in a rough position for the start of this race. A whole lot of things to remember. Let's see what these boys got.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as well to see how many people actually get round that corner as we go into green lights. Something I want to mention as well, and that we've not really talked about, Wesley van der Linden. We were talking about how strong he can be. P8 qualification for Wesley van der Linden. So an interesting story there if the Dutchman is going to try and fight for this P3 spot, as you were trying to predict. And you can see, ooh, just there is Edward Elric is now just skating in and around, across, all around, and you know, P8 as well. Wesley van der Linden, just a quick fact about him, one of the founders of Full Grip Motorsport. So it's going to be interesting to see what one of the founders can do on, you know, if you're running a racing website and a racing movement like this, you're going to want to set the standard pretty high. But so far, I'm not doing so. But maybe it is just the qualifying of Hungaroring. But you can see now the weather is changing slightly, and so instead of all clouds, in about 10 minutes into this race, we will be getting some rain, which you were mentioning until you want to see it. We want to see how these drivers cope with it. It's going to be so interesting to see, especially on this start-finish line. But as Cherto Lewis, Cherto Vincio, Blake Lewis, Marius Dan Leeson around this final corner, 4 different car types in the first 4 slots, by the way, just like to point out. But as all the cars start to come round this final corner, we will cross the start-finish line, and away we go at the Hungaroring Grand Prix. It's a good start from Blake Lewis. Cherto Vincio slaggy a bit on the exit, and now we go into turn 1. There's going to be a lot of contact, and there is a contact. There's a Ferrari in the back there coming off. There's a BMW going wide. I believe that BMW is from the Canadian driver, not Mahan Randwa, but instead I believe that is someone else. I will get back to that in a second. But Cherto Vincio has taken P1, has kept P1 for now, while Blake Lewis right on the tail of Dan Leeson. Gareth Sarabia is in P4 now. Blake Lewis might be trying to get in and have a look on Cherto Vincio, but not happening just yet. But still having a look on this inside, but Cherto Vincio just getting away from him just a bit, and managing to break free just as we come to this chicane. Although Blake Lewis lovely turn, kept a lot of momentum there. And as well, we just saw at the start there is Janden Chan, the Singaporean driver, has a drive-through penalty as well. So not a great start for the Singaporean racer, who hasn't had much to celebrate. Only 2 out of his 4 total races at FGM he has finished P3, and was his best finish, and that was the last race at Monza. But you can see Cherto Vincio has already gone so far into the lead compared to Blake Lewis, who is trying to fight for his spot. And as well, you can probably see there on the little mini-map, there is a driver in the pits. It's number 24, who I'm not too sure who that is. We'll get back to it in just a second. I believe that is it is Kosoba, another one of the Hungarian drivers who is in the pits. We're not too sure what happened, although I think it's fair to say it might have been because of that earlier incident. But look at this, Dan Leeson fighting now with Gareth Sarabia in the McLaren. When as we go into the turn, and Marius Issinger wants to have another go, and now Sarabia has gone from attack to defence, trying to attack down Leeson. But now Marius is just saying, actually, I want that spot back. I've had an awful start, so I'm going to try and take my spots back however I can get him. But Gareth Sarabia just has the speed for now.
Oh, I thought Marius was going to go up the inside of him, man. I'm glad he thought better of that.
Well, there's an incident further down. There's yellow flags out further down. I'm not too sure who it was with. I believe Junker Max Payne has gone. Messenger spun out on the chicane. Action everywhere in this race. Issinger has spun out. An awful start from the German driver. He's now got to try and fight back all the way across, and this has not been a good start for a lot of racers. The one who has had a very good start, though, Cherto Vincio, still in P9. Marius Issinger keeps on falling down to P10.
Wow, what a crazy start to this race we've had so far, man. I knew as soon as they went green there was going to be a hornet's nest in the back, and we saw exactly that.
Yeah, just to bring you an update on what's happening, it was in that earlier incident on that first sort of go when that lights went green. It was one of our newer drivers here at Full Grip Motorsport, Arda Yildirim, who was put into the wall, and you can, the damage on this car does look quite extensive. So, but we'll come back to that in a second. And as well, lots of cars in the pit so far. We have Alan Estic, the Croatian, in there with the Porsche. A lot of damage on their car. Another German candidate here, Hugo Moller, another Porsche. This is Hungaroring debut, but as DNF 3 out of 4 races with FGM, and it's already taking a lot of damage. Obviously, we talked about Levante Schober. Junker Max Payne now in the pits as well, going to get that damage repaired as we go back and look at Marius Issinger, who So a very poor start considering he was top 3, I believe he was 4th coming into this, and now has fallen all the way back to P13.
Yeah, you saw getting into that braking zone, he slowed up a little more than the car behind him thought. Car behind got into his rear bumper, spun him around. Great job recovering, being able to get back in line around P14, P15 whenever he rejoined. But still, that's another thing about this track with all the braking zones. If someone slows up faster than you expect them to, man, you're going to go right into the back of them, and there's not much you can do. It's got to be so technical around this track.
Yeah, you can just see in front of him as well, there's the Singaporean driver once again of Zhendan Chan, who's going to go into the pits with a lot of front damage. Not a great start for the Singaporean. And, elsewhere, Isinger makes that move into Arif, so that's something, but still a long way to go. And I mean, it's just a question of what. There is more contact. I'm not sure who that is right now. It's the Lamborghini coming in. There is only one Lamborghini coming in, and that is Penguin, the Hungarian, another Hungarian driver getting into some contact at the start of this race.
Oh man, the home track has not been too graceful to its hometown drivers. It's been a little rough for the Hungarians today. We'll hope the rest of the race they can recover and bounce back.
Yeah, so you see Oscar Whitehead there as well, just ahead. And meanwhile, we'll go back to Florian Braun, who has... The Germans had a quieter race so far. Not been much, although everything has happened around him. DNF'd in his last Hungaroring race, but 2 P2 finishes in this most recent races at Brands Hatch definitely puts him in a bit of good form.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And it's been super fun to see these first couple laps go by. These drivers feeling out their cars, getting these tires warmed, really settling into a groove, because this is a very groovy track. You really want to get into a rhythm, especially like we said during the Sector 2, turns 4 through turns 10. Super important that you hit your marks in that section, because one screw up can affect you for the rest of the entire sector. So it's super important to get your rhythm, find it, and ride it until you can't anymore, until those tires give out.
Yeah, and you can see there Alan Ashich at the top of your screen with a 5-second penalty for stopping it at and crossing the pit line. And meanwhile, Junker Max Payne has a stop and go 30-second penalty as well. And you can just see now the rain is starting to come down, and so the drivers, if they weren't already struggling, they're going to be struggling even more now as we go with Eliège Journet, the Frenchman, who hasn't had the greatest of starts. I believe was involved in an earlier collision. You could just see him alongside the Ford of Mobile Gaming there, who both of them not having the greatest starts, but manages to get that pass in, and so now he's going to set his sight on yet another apologies, it's another Ferrari of the UK, the Englishman of Laszlo Jacques. This will be his 223rd race for Grip Motorsport, an absolute veteran here, but his last 7 out of 10 races have been out at the Hungaroring, but his best finish has been P7.
Yeah, and I know we still got a long way to go in this race. He's got a long way to go if he wants to beat his personal best, but man, I'll tell you what, if you're going to make a mistake, you really want it to be within these first couple minutes, because you have the whole rest of the race to catch up. Oh, Marius Isinger on the inside. Good little pass there.
Yeah, speaking
really important to maintain that speed.
Yeah, you're talking about mistakes, and there was one here that allows Marius Isinger to just get by the Ford there, being driven by the Canadian of... I don't have him on my list, even though I thought I did. Maybe this is just bad preparation from me, but we'll get back to that shortly. It's Cruikshank, and you can see at the top of your screen there, You see that penalty come in at the top of your screen there. It is... I'm not sure who that is actually for. Didn't get to catch it just quick enough, but still, we continue on with Gael Sarabia in P4, and is looking to try and maybe make a move on Dan Leeson very soon.
He's going to try. He got a better exit out of the chicane there. That heavier BMW trying to make its way around these corners. I feel like the McLaren's going to have an advantage through the more technical section here. Dan Leeson's going to have his hands full holding off Gale.
Yeah, hands full indeed, and it's going to be something that they need to figure out basically as soon as they can, because otherwise this could be maybe not disastrous for Dan Leeson, but the pressure to make a mistake is improved massively. Considering the rainy weather as Gael Sarabia tries to make a move, but it's actually going to be stopped there by one of the back markers. It's the German once again of Hugo Moller, who was forced a bit early on, and you can see as well some of the pitting now coming in. Don't believe they will count for the mandatory pit stops, and you see there it is Arav with a 10-second time penalty as well inside your screen. But here we go, Gael Sarabia looking towards the outside of Dan Leeson, not going to be able to get that move in, and so it's just going to have to wait and bind their time even more.
Florian
Let's
Brown
see that.
riding along. Good overtake.
Yeah, Florian Brown just trying to fight with Emil Antonsson, the Swede there. Antonsson gets back at the McLaren driver, but oh, it's contact! Antonsson's spinning! I think there's contact between him and Brown, and it ends up with the Swedish Emil Antonsson just going for a complete spin there.
Yeah, Matt, and you have to wonder how much these wet conditions caused that spin. Looked like he broke traction coming out of the corner, wasn't able to gather it back up, and had to bounce right off the nose of Florian Brown, and that's going to cause Florian Brown now to lose another spot.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Florian Brown isn't even going to gain anything. LS6 in the Ferrari is going to overtake Florian Brown, but we will bring you a replay now of what happened here. You can see Florian Brown.
Yep.
Antonsson just lost it beforehand, and it was actually both Brown and Six that did make contact with the Swede there, not able to do anything, but it's unlucky for Emil Antonsson, who is going to fall way down a pecking order now.
Yeah, and you can see right there on the track, that green, when it gets wet, man, especially over that curb, there is no traction. If you run wide, it is going to hurt your corner exit, and it is going to hurt your speed coming down that small straight. We will probably see that more than once today.
Yeah, and meanwhile, look, we go on board with Paddy Thomas now, and you can see damage towards the front. I'm not sure what happened with the driver from the UK, but now being put under a lot of pressure from Wes van der Linden. Look how much damage Paddy Thomas has on the side of his car. Incredible. I'm not sure what that was from, but still managing to get into P5, which is honestly very impressive considering how much damage, but maybe not for long as Wesley van der Linden comes forward. And there has been another incident. Is Edward Elric now sideways once again, and this course is proving to be a killer so far for a lot of people. And there's Ilya Jornet, the other casualty as well.
It's so important. You have to be very careful on the throttle as well. We've seen that a lot already today too. You know, these tight technical corners, you really want to be on the power as soon as you can, but especially in these wet conditions, it's almost impossible to get the car to do what you want to do. So you're gonna have to nurse this thing around here. You got to be careful. You cannot have a lead foot. It is going to get you facing the other direction, and hopefully you won't hit any other cars on the way around.
Hopefully so, but it's going to be very difficult right now. But you do see Paddy Thomas coming forward and still holding off on Wesley van der Linden, who isn't really in a position to make a move, hasn't been for a while. As you see there, time penalty for Arda Yildirim, who hasn't had the best of races to his full Grip Motorsport start. You see, we do have a replay, and there's Florian Braun going for a spin there. So, German is not immune to a few spins. And you can see Gail Sarabia just went past someone who was spinning. He was sideways. I'm not sure who that was, but I mean, there's spins all over. The rain has stopped, by the way, but still a greasy track. So, a lot of mistakes and a lot of people struggling to find out what is, what the breaking points are and how much they can push this track. As you can see, we do have a replay on the bottom right hand side of your screen. You just see side by side. Yeah, just a bit of contact there between the two drivers. A little bit of pushing and shoving, but it's GT Motorsports, of course, is going to happen. Thankfully, these cars aren't made out of paper. Full grip at Hungary. Indeed it is, and it's going to be a little pushing and shoving. Thankfully, these cars are not made like paper like it in Formula 1, so, they can take a bit of a battering, and you can see that with Paddy Thomas. But we do see there has been a spin on the course, and see another one as Gail Sarabia goes for a spin and hits the wall. Big damage to the front of the Mexican's car.
Spinning in fourth, looks to be that he managed to maintain his position, but you gotta wonder how much damage. That looked like a hard lick right there, Matt.
Very hard indeed. Junker Max Payne just ahead of Gail Sarabia, and behind the Mexican is Paddy Thomas, so hasn't lost a position yet, but has an equally damaged car, I'd say, just behind him, so has to be careful. And as well, Wesley van der Linden behind Paddy Thomas, who looked like he wanted to make a move into that first corner, but choosing not to, and has probably seen how many cars have spun. He goes, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be in that club.
Yeah, man, I completely understand that.
Yeah, I think you need a result here on one of these live streams. Has been a bit rough on stream. Off stream, Wesley van der Linden has been great, but needs to show people why they need to fear the Dutchman of Wesley van der Linden once again. That number 11 Ferrari. See how fast he can really push that to the boat. So you just see sparks coming on the chicane as
and a little
each driver tries to go in, as Wesley van der Linden tries to look down and just not finding it. Meanwhile, we see the Canadians contact on the chicane, but that will be the Canadian of Cruikshank, Mitchell Cruikshank, taking P9 in the Ford, which is the only Ford out on the track, and is honestly kind of surprising. But again, it feels, in my opinion at least, feels like a bit of a tank, so maybe that is the right decision.
Maybe so. Time will tell today. And look at Wesley van der Linden. I said at the beginning of the race, expect him top 5. He is knocking on the door, one position away, hawking down my man, Paddy Thomas.
Yeah, you saw Junker Max Payne getting the last corner all mixed up there, and it allows Wesley van der Linden just go past a fellow Dutch driver who has 3 top 5 finishes in the last 3 Hungaroring races, and yet has just been on the receiving end of some hard luck so far this race. But maybe that will soon to be changed, as here we go with Florian Braun back with Emil Antonsson here, trying to fight to keep the position. And the Swedish driver not going to have any luck so far, but Braun still needs to defend here. He can't let his guard slip at all for even a microsecond as we go into these swooping corners of the first sector, and it looks like Florian Braun is just about able to stay ahead.
Yeah, it's a really good battle right here. 2 McLarens duking it out. Looks like Gale got a better corner through there. Paddy struggling through the chicane. Right back up on his bumper though. Got a good 3-way battle coming in.
Yeah, I was about to say, here's the problem with Gareth Sarabia and Paddy Thomas fighting. It is that you're allowing Wesley van der Linden to come back into this and not only gain 1 position but 2. So both these drivers could very well be fighting for absolutely nothing. And it's going to be so interesting to see, especially on these tight hairpin turns coming into the final corner now, whether these drivers want to make a move.
Yeah, and if we could stick with Wesley van der Linden here as they come down the straight, this is the longest straight on the racetrack. Going into turn 1, they get up, they're going so fast through here, going to be hard on the brakes all the way down to first gear. This is where most of the overtakes happen here. Speaking of, here they come. Paddy Thomas moving up. Yeah, see, down into first gear, rolling around that corner at about 80 kilometers an hour, coming around over here to turn 2.
Yeah, on board now with Wesley van der Linden. Just for a second at least, as we saw Paddy Thomas take the P4 away from Gil Sarabia. But I think there is starting to be questions placed on Wesley van der Linden here, because both these drivers ahead of him have a lot of damage and should be a lot slower than the Ferrari, who has taken very little, if any. Yet still, van der Linden really struggling to make a go with these overtakes. And we talked about how tight the Hungaroring is and how limited you are for overtaking opportunities, but still you feel like he should be up there P4 by now.
I do, and something is telling me that maybe Wesley van der Linden is not pushing as hard as he possibly could right now. He just saw in front of his windshield 2 McLarens duking it out for a spot. He saw how hard they're going to fight, and he obviously knows that this is still just the beginning of this race. We still have a really long way to go. So how much is it him? How much is it the car? And how much is it that he is wanting to back off and just let these guys go? Don't get into too much of a spat right now, just so he can stay in the race, making sure that he can complete these overtakes in a timely, maybe not timely, but in a clean fashion. Because we just saw Paddy Thomas shot it on the inside of Gil Sarabia. If I was Wesley van der Linden, I would be a little worried about the aggression out of those McLarens. And we got to spin. Oh my gosh! Wow!
It's one of the back markers there with Wesley van der Linden, who has caused him to go around.
And that's exactly what I was saying, Matt. The aggression. And clearly, maybe I was wrong about where his headspace was at. I'd love to see a replay on that just to see what exactly happened. Yeah, man, the commentator's curse is so real.
I believe that was actually Paddy Thomas that went round there. And you can see it was. And I think Thomas just didn't realise Wesley van der Linden was there and ended up taking him out as well. And so,
goodness gracious, man, what did I say about Paddy the aggression? Thomas? I said aggression out of the McLaren drivers. Wesley was most likely aware of that, and it wound up getting him in trouble anyway.
Oh, another spin there from Junker Max Payne.
Gosh!
Marius Issinger going to take a beating into the side of his Ferrari. And it's just been spin central. It doesn't look like there's massive damage from Marius Issinger, but still, there is damage. But now, thankfully, the pit window is now open as we go on board with Marius Issinger for the replay. And just Junker Max Payne lost it, and Marius Issinger was just a casualty. But although, can safely say, still P6 and still trying to chase LS6 in P5. So,
Matt, I think I can hear his heartbeat from inside the booth, Matt. That was extremely close. Very, very scary.
And one thing I want to point out and ask you as well is that we've mentioned how tight and difficult this track is to really go and put speed down. But a lot of these drivers have had experience at the Hungaroring, but a lot of them are just getting it wrong and just spinning out, not feeling the track as it is. Is there a reason for that?
Honestly, Matt, whether it comes down to drivers or the track, I'd put my money on it's just this place, man. This place is hard. This place is technical. These cars are difficult. You're trying to wheel these beasts around one of the tightest tracks, one of the hardest braking zones, and you have to be perfect. It is so very important to hit your marks all the way around this place. And we are seeing even one small slip up can spell disaster for these guys. So if you're going to want to win this race, you're going to want to take a page out of the Aston Martin's handbook and change your name to Sergio Vincio, because I've seen everyone else make a mistake but that guy so far.
Yeah, well, we will just quickly go. I'll just go through all of the penalties. We have missed a lot, as you can see on the top of your screen. Jeanette has a penalty for causing a collision. That's 5 seconds. Arav as well, 10-second time penalty for the Ferrari. Zendan Chan, penalty now up to 15 seconds. Ollie Nixon with a 5-second penalty in the McLaren. Elias Jeanette with a 5-second penalty we just mentioned. Oida Voda, 15-second penalty. Valiev Bekir with a penalty for crossing the pit lane exit as well. I believe as well towards the back of the grid we have yet more penalties coming in. Alan Asic has not got a penalty, so congrats Alan Asic, you've done well for yourself. Slightly more penalties to go. Andy Brown with a 10-second time penalty, with a drive-through penalty. As a matter of fact, Shilagyai Barnabas, I've butchered that name, I apologise, 5-second penalty for them as well. And finally, for the penalties list, I believe, Edward Elric, the Turkish Porsche driver, has got a penalty as well. And obviously we just mentioned Valiev Bekir with a 5-second penalty as well. And for Elric that was a 10-second penalty. So a lot of penalties so far as we go back on with Wesley van der Linden as he looks to try and get this move done on Paddy Thomas, and Thomas has gone wide. And so that is a 3 position for Wesley van der Linden, who gets himself up to P7. You can see there as well, van der Linden has taken a bit of damage to the side, so it's interesting to see that he is nursing damage as well as some of the other people behind him, such as Paddy Thomas. But it's going to be interesting to see when these people with damage decide on whether there's a pit. And you can see at the top of your screen there, crossing the pit lane next to Andy Brown, another penalty for him. It's going to be interesting to see when these drivers decide to go for these repairs. Obviously the pit window is open, and it's open for another 2 hours and 10 minutes. And mandatory pit stops as well. So there is 3 of them, but we are on board now with Mitchell Cruikshank, who's now trying to get the move done on Emil Antonsen down this front straight, and looking to try and go side by side into turn 1. Juncker Max Payne with another penalty there as well, and Cruikshank takes it for now, but is immediately going to be fought back and won back by Emil Antonsen. So the Swede still remaining in P10, although Cruikshank is not going to want to let this go so quickly. Onto the inside now and getting a nose ahead of Antonsen, but Antonsen fights back in towards turn 3, and I believe Cruikshank is just going to give this up for now as we go very quickly towards the chicane. It's going to be interesting to see if Cruikshank wants to try and make a move up here as we now head towards the chicane. Mobile Gaming now has a penalty as well, and Cruikshank is just going to let Antonsen have the spot and try and get him again later. And I do believe we are having some issues with Hunter, so I will take over. You know, it's fair. He takes over for me, I take over for him for a bit. And howdy. He's back.
I am so sorry, technical issues. I apologize. Struggling with my stream a little bit. We are all good now. But
maybe
yeah,
the Hungarians just cursed for us all.
Maybe, I'm not too sure. But I was making a note of right there, because I could still see Mike was not working, but we could see how difficult it is to get a pass done on this circuit. We could see Michael Cruikshank trying to launch it down into turn 1. We'll see if he does it again this lap. But it looked like he had the advantage, possibly even going into turn 2. But it is so difficult to get a move done around this track, and he's not going to have the distance to even make a dive bomb here. But you can just see the difficulty. And he runs a little wide. That's going to hurt his time even more. But it's so difficult to pass.
Gives Emil Antonsen a way back to try and just keep this spot as is, and Cruikshank to just sit there. P11 for the Canadian driver, whose notes have mysteriously gone missing. So maybe the Hungaroring is stolen, is hidden inside of it. I don't know, but it's interesting nonetheless. We go back and watch Marius Issenger P6 still, although you can see the time catching up with Ella6, just coming toward some very similar laps, although Issenger ran a faster lap in the previous 1:45.5, whereas Ella6 1:45.7, so not a massive difference, but a difference is a difference as Issenger gets right onto the bumper of the fellow Ferrari. The German wants this P5 position back, and with the amount of damage Ella6 has sustained compared to the amount of damage that Marius Issenger has sustained, it feels like this is more of an inevitability rather than a if and when.
Yeah, we'll see if Marius can catch the slipstream coming up into turn 1 here. It doesn't look like he's going to have the speed to be able to outbrake. I don't think he's going to go for this move quite yet, but he is definitely within position to make a move. He could even possibly make a move out of turn 3, maybe into turn 6. We'll have to keep an eye on him, but not looking like this pass is going to happen anywhere here.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to ask you whilst you were having your internet issues is, so many cars have a lot of damage, but when do they actually decide to go into the pits and go for this repair?
And that's the funny thing about damage. It really all depends on the severity. If your car is still driving and you're not losing too much time per lap and you feel like you can wheel this thing around, I say stay out. But if the damage is causing you to lose time, especially with the people you were keeping pace with earlier, I'd say you probably want to go ahead, come in, and get that fixed as soon as possible. But if you're not losing too much time, if you're keeping pace with the people in front of you, I'd say save it for your first planned pit stop.
One thing to notice, but you've probably already seen it, was that we now have some sunshine in Hungary now. Still a lot of cloudage over the top of the Hungaroring, but a lot of sun nonetheless, or at least a bit of sun. And you can see at the top of your screen there, Paddy Thomas has got a drive-through penalty. So, not great. And I think that is for pit speeding, so unlucky for the British driver. And you can still see here, Marius Issenger is still struggling to catch up with Ella6, and I think it's in fact lost a bit of time compared to the other Ferraris. We come around, we will see, and yeah, Ella6 2/10 of a second quicker than Marius Issenger, so these two locked in what feels to be a never-ending battle. But you can see in the back there as well, Wesley van der Linden, who has lost so much time on the back markers, now finds themselves in P7.
Yeah, Matt, and you have to worry, how bad is this Hungaroring eating these tires? It's an older circuit, tough, rough, especially since, the dry weather's coming out now. Track temp is going to heat up. At what point do these tires start to give way, and what point do they start to struggle? I have to worry about Wesley van der Linden and wonder, has he already used up his stuff? Is he just nursing this thing until his first planned pit stop, or maybe is he taking it easy? Maybe it's the damage. Who knows? But it's definitely something to keep in mind as the sun comes out and the track temp rises.
Yeah, I think as well with a lot of these drivers, it comes down to the setups as well, because normally, for those who aren't as aware of GT racing, what you want to do is you want to try and get as much speed onto this whilst being able to obviously corner. And so you obviously want the speed for the corners, but also for the straights, and that's what a lot of these races are decided by. How much speed do you have in the straights? For something like Hungaroring, I honestly think you can just put as much downforce onto your car as possible and just have it so, because you don't really need top speed at a track like this, where the start-finish line is the biggest straight. And so, is it worth to put so much downforce onto your car, or is there still that need for straight line speed?
Honestly, Matt, I think I'm on your side on this one. I would max out my downforce. I don't want my car even thinking about leaving this ground. Downforce is extremely important, and you have to think about their suspension setups too here. I did some research, looked around, and most drivers prefer to run on a soft, medium suspension around this track. So high downforce, soft suspension to get around these turns as easy as possible. Super, super important. Especially the downforce. Downforce being number one here at the Hungaroring.
Yeah, indeed. You can see Marius Issenger there. And I just want to point it out as well, because apparently we've not talked about this guy enough. Cheto Vincio has been absolutely incredible. And not only incredible, he is a second and a half quicker on his best lap than anyone else. 142.8 is the best lap of the race so far, as Marius Issenger gets that pass onto LS6 finally
there we
for
go.
the German. But
yeah, he made that pass into turn 6, which is another. It is harder to pass there, but you can get it done in turn 6 and 7, the chicane driving center.
Yeah, but Issenger, fair play, will now set his sight onto Gail Rabbit, but Issenger has inquired a penalty though. So that's you might have some happiness over overtaking and getting into P5, and you get slapped with a 10-second penalty, which I believe is for causing a collision. So not sure what that one was. I think that was earlier on, so we will just have to leave it at that for now. But you can see actually there's a car on the start-finish line, and they are sideways. I believe that is the Lexus of Oscar Whitehead that is over the side. And yes, it is the Irishman. Not had a great race, and was talking about how little that he hasn't driven on this course before, and it's certainly showing. P19th for the Irish driver, who will be wanting to do a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, Matt, and the Hungaroring is not Daytona Superspeedway. This is definitely a track you want to take some practice laps on. Braking zones are not easy to learn, and coming in completely raw off a 30-minute practice session, that's not enough time to get that muscle memory in, or even the beginnings of some muscle memory to remember where you need to go. It is very important, especially on technical tracks like the Hungaroring, to get your practice in, understand where you need to be and where this car needs to be. So it was definitely a decision on his part not to practice, but you can tell the guys that did practice and the guys that did not practice, for sure.
Yeah, free practice not enough, so we ride on board now with LS6, who was in B6, so maybe this is the universe's way of righting itself, but actually still in a very good position to maybe trying to get the pass back on Marius Issenger, who is still ahead for now, but could be very different in a short while, but still has a lot of damage to that front, and not choosing to pit just yet, as we see Luketic in the back just holding up L6 and moving to the side under blue flag rules, and so L6 does get past the Porsche driver, but not much at all.
I knew that was going to be bad. I knew as soon as he moved to the inside there, even under blue flag conditions, that is just a terrible spot to be. You ideally really want to let the car on the lead lap by through the racing line. Kind of an irresponsible move there.
Yeah, and Nikola Luketic is someone who I want to talk about as well. The Croatian is making his debut at the Hungaroring, but also has used 5 different cars in the last 5 races. Those cars being a Porsche in this race, a Mercedes, an Audi, a Lamborghini, and a Nissan.
Oh, we do have a Nissan in here. That is.
We don't have a Nissan in here.
I misheard you. I apologize.
No, Nikola Luketic has driven a Nissan, and has driven 5 different cars in his last 5 races, so that's surely got to be a difficult thing to really get to learn.
Absolutely, Matt. I completely agree with you, and I got really excited. I heard Nissan. I'm a Nissan fanboy. I drive one in real life. Haven't seen any in the full Grip Motorsport races we've commentated so far, but I hope to see one day, man. I'm super excited to see my first Nissan race.
Yeah, one day indeed. You can see at the top there, Oscar Whitehead now has a penalty as well as we look towards Gao Sarabia in P5. I'm not actually sure what happened. He's lost the position to Marius Issenger, so I'm assuming must have gone for a spin of something, but now is under a lot of pressure from LS6 and the Ferrari as we go onto this front straightaway over the start-finish line. Now LS6 is just going to take the position themselves, and so it's P5 for LS6 and Gao Sarabia and the Mexicans dropping down to P6.
Yeah, Matt, and there's something else I want to point out there. You saw how easy that overtake was to get done. That's because Gao Sarabia got a really bad exit out of turn 14. That 180-degree right-hander feeds directly onto the front straight. So you're really going to want to maximize the speed coming out of that corner, or else it's going to hurt your exit and eventual run onto the front stretch down near turn 1.
Yeah, indeed. Now Gao Sarabia, who I believe is also nursing a little bit of damage, is now going to have to try and fight their way back in towards that top 5 position. But if you aren't entertained just yet, or if you are more than entertained, then you can stick around by subscribing to a Full Grip Motorsport on YouTube and following on Twitch and getting involved with fullgripmotorsport.com to find out more about these events and possibly even sign up to them. Lots of races across Assetto Corsa Competizione, Assetto Corsa Evo, and just regular Assetto Corsa, as well as some other ones. So, fair play. And you can just see as Whitehead off again into the wall in the bottom right hand side of your screen. Yeah, that limited practice is really showing for the Irishman. And we go back with Gao Sarabia now, who's on that final corner. Just going through the motions at this point, and we'll be taking a replay of Marius Issinger's penalty earlier on. Yeah, just fully spinned. I believe that's Nikola Lukatic. It's fully spins. It's either Lukatic or Asic. One of the two. It's a 50-50 between the Croatians. I'm hoping I get it right. Yeah, I actually believe it is Asic in the Porsche, so I'll take that. I'll take it. Watch me be completely wrong. It was the BMW, but yeah, it's just 10-second time penalty for him as well.
We're riding on board. Yeah, we're on board with the Fords here. We've got 2 Fords in this race, and I really did not expect much coming from them. You know, Ford, very high horsepower, heavy ride. You don't think it would be doing too well against this technical Hungaroring circuit, but Michael Kruschenk running in P10, doing really well on that Ford, got it dialed in.
Yeah, and you know, from my test drives of this track, I did a few in the Ford, and I felt it to be very tanky, very heavy, and in my opinion, I didn't think it was best suited for a track like this when there's a lot of corner and a lot of tight turns. And so to give Mitchell Cruikshank his flowers, he's done really well so far to make this Ford work. But we will be having a look at this start from lap 1, just coming out of the formation lap as Florian Brown is around. We'll hold on the replay for now. Florian Brown around into the grass. And you can just see that's Emil Antonsson going past and probably waving at the German going past. But Florian Brown losing a lot of positions, now P10.
Yeah, man, tragic spin. You saw him lose about 4 spots there. Just technical circuit, man. Got to be so careful. One spin and you're back. Tough for Mr. Browning.
And now Florian Brown going to be going into the pits for his first mandatory pit stop, and I believe that replay will have on the start of... we'll first have a look at the accident of Florian Brown, just seeing that replay first. And then we'll go into that starting lap as we also see Certo Vincio now in P1, just keeping his position there. This is an incredible drive from Certo Vincio as we now get this replay on Florian Brown. And it's actually
oh my gosh,
the Porsche
Wow. And I believe that's the same Porsche we saw make that irresponsible move earlier in turn 1. I believe that's the same. That's 2 mistakes now that have one almost cost a driver dearly, and that one, obviously, as you see, just irresponsible rejoining of the track. That's going to be a penalty for sure.
Yeah, I believe that is Nikola Lukatic once again. It was the number 25 Porsche, I do believe. So possibly another penalty coming in there, and we will keep following Concerto Vinci for now, but we'll also have a replay of this first lap, these opening moments for you now. Alright, you can see there, Certo Vinci gets an okay start. Blake Lewis is better, but you can see in the background there's a lot of wobbling here, there, and everywhere. And I believe you can just look at the. There is a. I was watching in the background as well. There was contact. There was 3 wide in the back, and you can just see around that middle of the track. And yeah, you just see him go into the wall. So there was a lot of contact and a lot of spins as well. That's where a lot of the damage comes in, and you can see how much it gets backed up into turn 1.
And you see this turn 1, especially if a car gets down on the inside like that, starts skidding through the grass. It reminds me a lot of turn 1 at Monza, where if a car gets loose right there and they cannot get their car slowed down, they're going to go straight through the field. Oh my goodness, and look at this. Wow. Yeah,
Junker Max Payne getting involved there. I believe that is with Ilya Jornet, and Mobile Gaming just completely slamming into the Lamborghini of Balia Penguin on that final corner. So a very, very hectic lap 1 indeed, as we see Marius Issinger and Wesley van der Linden now come out of the pits. Issinger going to rejoin P9, van der Linden in P7, just ahead of CXA Arav. So, bit of work for both these drivers to do, but all 3 share the same Ferrari brotherhood.
Yeah, man, I don't believe manufacturers play too much with alliances and over here at Full Grip.
Yeah, no, you can see Issinger still harboring a little bit of damage by the looks of it, so we didn't get that fully repaired. As we go towards the chicane now, and you can see on the bottom right of your screen, I believe that is the Turkish driver in the Ferrari just into the pits there. We'll give you the update of the name if you want here. No, it's actually Zenden Chan, who is our Singaporean driver for today. Hasn't had the best of starts. And Antonsen as well into the pits for his first pit stop, currently in P6. So the Swede has done well, and there is Andy Brown as well, a Canadian in the Merc, coming in for the pit stop, as is the FGM debutant of Valik Rybisk in the BMW just ahead. So a lot of drivers now taking their pit stop, as we see now Marius Issinger trying to fight with CXA Arav. Let's see if the German can make the move on the outside into turn 1. It's an interesting choice, and trying to make that move stick and not being able to just yet. And you can see Valiev Bekir with a time penalty as well, but Issinger side by side now with Arav. Both drivers seem to get loose a bit, and still side by side as we go into this corner. Issinger on the inside, Arav on the outside, and Issinger is going to get P8. So now working his way back to the top of the field.
Yeah, gonna set his sights on P6 of Wesley van der Linden. Seems like Marius Issinger and Wesley van der Linden, they love to duke it out. I always seen them beside each other the past couple weeks. It's been really cool to watch these guys do their thing, duke it out.
Yeah, 2 veterans of Full Grip Motorsport coming in and constantly fighting with each other. And, you know, a lot of the time we've seen a lot of these brothers come in and race together. Marius Issinger and Toby Issinger, the 2 German brothers, both drive the Ferrari. Both we usually see together in races. Toby Issinger not showing up today, as well. Mahan Rantawa and Isha Rantawa, also another pairing that we have here at Full Grip Motorsport, and they're not in the race today. So it's just Isinger representing the brothers, and you can see Mitchell Craigshire has been disqualified, which is
we were
interesting.
just talking about him, talking about how he had that Ford rolling this track pretty good. There goes a really good result out the window.
Yeah, and you can see them now in the pits. And you can see just behind them is Ilya Journet and a McLaren. I'm not too sure whose McLaren that is. It's Blake Lewis, P2, coming in for his first pit stop. And it's just unlucky, as you were saying, as we now see Chateau Vinto and a stop and go penalty for Veniev Bekir, the Azerbaijani driver, who again hasn't had much to say this race so far, currently in 23rd. And just struggling to make a massive impact in this race so far. Top 5 finishes in the last 2 Hungarian races, but top 5 finishes in all but one of his previous 5 races as well, so a fairly consistent driver when it comes to it, but just not feeling it today.
Yeah, man, and that happens, you know. Some days, maybe you're just not on it. Maybe you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, didn't get enough sleep. Maybe you burnt your coffee bean this morning, something like that. You know what I mean? It could be anything. Sometimes your head is just not in the game. And to come to a track like this, you have to have, you as well as your car, all engines need to be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and you just saw at the top of your screen as well, Mitchell Cruikshank, it does have a stop and go 30-second penalty, so that disqualification has been reversed, and
that's
the
lovely.
Canadian only has a stop and go penalty, but it's now fallen to P12 and still has to serve that penalty, so not the greatest, but could have been worse. You can see there Jindan Chan has got a penalty for crossing the pit lane exit, which is another one that catches out a lot of drivers.
Yeah, now we saw that a lot last week. Big penalties coming out of the exit on Spa. Same thing here this week.
Yeah, and here is, you can see on our side-by-side, Chateau Vinto on the bottom, and our P2 of Dan Leeson in the BMW on the top of your screen. Somebody who we haven't really talked about much, because we've not really had a chance to really say anything, because all the action has just been elsewhere, not with Dan Leeson.
Dan Leeson, man, let's talk about him for a minute. He had a very eventful past couple races, especially at Silverstone. Dan was in a very big incident. He had the, his livery, it was as you would call them, chips. My hamburger blood would call them French fries, but he had a French fry livery, came out of a corner. Really hard crash. Took him out of that race. Can't remember how well his Spa went. It didn't go quite as bad, but Dan Leeson looking for a really good result here today.
Yeah, and you just saw towards the end there, Junker Max Payne was slow on the track. I believe that was for a spin. But yeah, Dan Leeson has struggled with the Full Grip Motorsport streams as of recent, but still has been improving. 4 races at the Hungaroring in 4 different cars as of recently. His best finish was P2 in a Porsche. He drove a Honda as well, where he finished P15, Mercedes where he finished P17, and the BMW P3 is now choosing to go with that again, as you see Chateau Vinto now in the pits for his first pit stop.
Very exciting to see the leader come in and pit, because the leader can really set the tone. Once the leader really reveals his strategy, the people behind really know what they can start doing and when they can start pitting and other aspects of that. So it's very good to see Chateau Vinto come in, get his pit, probably taking new tires. Doubt he has any damage. But now the rest of the field sees that he's pitting, and as we see, Dan Leeson coming in right behind him.
Yeah, Leeson coming in behind him was closing the gap a lot, but now it's going to be up to Blake Lewis to do that. 40 seconds away from the leader is the American, and we'll go back on board with Gail Sarabia, who is currently P7 and has a fresh lick of paint, who I did believe has made his first pit stop, but still just trying to chug along in P7. You can see now we'll go to Blake Lewis, who is looking to try and come forward, not going to take a pit stop now, and it's going to be interesting to see if he can get ahead of Chateau Vincho has. And Blake Lewis will get ahead of Dan Leeson here, will jump Leeson in the pits, but Vincho has gotten away 24 seconds in front of Blake Lewis, who has taken his pit stops, and it's going to be on those warmer tyres, so he's definitely going to have an advantage in a bit, but it's all about can he make up those 24 seconds and on to Chateau Vincho, or will the Aston Martin driver just be too quick for him?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. Sergio Vincho, especially just the prowess we've seen out of him, the composure, the ability to run these tracks like they need to be ran. It's going to be hard, but you have to think, how awesome is it to be able to race with someone like that? You have to, and I can understand feeling frustrated at watching someone just blow past the field, but being able to race with someone of such a skill level is honestly an honor. And you get to watch them do their thing and learn where you can be better as well. Such a cool thing for these drivers.
Yeah, one fun fact about Blake Lewis as well is finished first in all 5 of his previous races in Hungary. 4 of those were in a McLaren, and I believe the other one was in a Porsche. So, a little fun fact for you there is Alan Ashich gets a stop and go penalty for 30 seconds as we now go back with LS6, who is on the heels of Dan Leeson, who is going to be on those colder tyres. So I think LS6 is just trying to bide their time and wait for the opportunity to be opened, and it might come soon on this start go finish straight.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to get in position here. We'll see how he gets through turns 13 and 14. If he's close, he'll have a very good chance of catching this BMW down the straight, especially with the slipstream he's going to get.
Yeah, and you can see as well, Wesley van der Linden within 2 seconds of these two, so you can see him just behind whenever we go to a frontal camera, so it's interesting, yeah, you see Wesley van der Linden there, you can just about see them in the distance, and so it's hoping that these two are going to fight a lot, try and take P3, or at least P4 away from these two drivers, and the Dutchman's looking for every opportunity he can get because he's right on the edge of a lot of them.
Yeah, man, we're going to have a really good 3-way battle coming up here very soon. P3, 4, and 5 all on the table for these drivers. We'll see how they communicate through these turns, see how it all shakes out here very, very soon, especially as LS6 begins to close in on this back bumper of Dan Leeson. It's heating up.
Yeah, but the problem is the longer LS6 has to wait to make a move, the warmer that Dan Leeson's tyres are going to get, and the better grip he's going to have, the better everything he's going to have, and so LS6 really needs to get this move done as soon as possible, and in theory, as soon as possible basically means now, considering we have blue skies up ahead, sun shining, optimum track conditions with very little wind. I mean, this is a move that happens to happen now. You can see ahead now of Dan Leeson is Mobile Gaming. So hopefully, for at least LS6 is hoping that the Ford is going to slow down Dan Leeson. That's exactly what's going to happen here. Mobile Gaming has forced to go wide under blue flags, and now LS6 right on the tail of Dan Leeson as we go on to the start-finish straight, and it has every opportunity for LS6 to take P3 now and get into that podium position, but the Ferrari is struggling and is not going to be able to make a move into turn 1.
Yeah, Matt, I just noticed that BMW, such good straight line speed. I really wasn't sure how much that was going to matter, but you could just see there, no matter how close LS6 was on the back bumper, that BMW, just more power being able to be put down, and Dan Leeson able to hold on down the front straight.
Yeah, Nikola Lukatic there playing a bit of spoiler once again. We've seen him have a
Ooh,
lot
okay.
of appearances in
Oh!
this race, and it's actually going to be spun by
Oh,
S6
no!
in contact between Van der Linden and the 6.
No!
And it's Nikola Lukatic having a say in this race again, and it's Wesley Van der Linden being held back by a back marker once again. We saw this in Silverstone a few weeks ago. We're seeing it now in Hungary. An LS6 massive collision with Nikola Lukatic, LS6, and Wesley Van der Linden.
Yeah, this Porsche has been an issue today for the lead lap drivers, Matt. He has, I don't want to say has been in the way, but man, with every passing lap, it looks like he has just been in the way today. Ooh, and there's shades of Silverstone, man. Shades of Silverstone, especially with Wesley Van der Linden not able. Just, it is so tough for him to get around these lap cars recently. I'm not sure what the deal has been, but he must have a sign somewhere that says lap cars hit me now.
Yeah, it has to get someone else to take it off the bat, but this might have actually worked more in favour of Wesley Van der Linden. He's now right on the back of LS6, so I don't want to say get screwed by the back marker of the Porsche, but he's not exactly been helped by the Porsche either. But either way, Wesley Van der Linden is going to be the one to now attack LS6 and try and get this move done into P5. This Dutchman is going hunting, and I think if you're Marius Issenger here, you can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief, because now that pressure off your back bumper, that other Ferrari that you were seeing of the number 79, that's now gone, and you had nothing to do with it, so not your problem anymore.
Yeah. Nice little replay here. And we can see the Porsche just, it seems to be, yeah, coming back onto the track, going wide. Then that slows the McLaren up. Wesley not expecting it, gets into his back bumper, and they both wind up going wide, losing a good bit of time to the cars in front. Man, I know that is so frustrating for Wesley Van der Linden. And LS6, man, that's frustrating.
I think I want to play a bit of devil's advocate in favour of Nikola Lukatic, because I think LS6 was actually getting onto the acceleration a bit too early, and that is what forced the Ferrari driver to go a bit wider, and maybe I don't think Lukatic was expecting 6 to go that wide, and so what ended up happening is 6 just clips into Lukatic, because actually there's just too much power early on, but it's either here or there, so it's going to be interesting to see what the race stewards have, and if there will be a punishment, or if it will just be classed as a racing incident as we go onto this front straight. And Wesley Van der Linden is losing time to LS6 here.
Yeah, man, it was definitely, especially after the replay, you get to see it a little more, and it just looks like a racing incident. You know, you're all coming out of that corner full speed. You're not trying to give an inch. Things like that happen. It really, and it's just tragic it had to be with a back marker, but, you know, he doesn't want to give up his time either. So you really got to communicate your way. Be kind, because you never know when you might see that driver on the track again. Whoa, Wesley Van der Linden, a little clip there. Whew. Yeah,
well, that was real tight there, as you see Ophelia Beckett and Oidevoda come out of the pits, and just in front of LS6 and Wesley Van der Linden. 6 managed to get away from it just before the corners. Van der Linden not so lucky, and so that time gap has been increased between the Dutchman and the Ferrari. Now we just try and take it more slowly as we get into a rhythm. Just over an hour gone here at the Hungaroring. Chateau Vincho still your race leader. Blake Lewis, the American, in P2. Dan Leeson in P3. Marius Issenger, P4. And LS6 just about in P5, rounding out your top 5 so far in Hungary. But we've seen already so far this course and these positions and drivers can change in an absolute heartbeat.
Yes, it can, Matt. And like we were talking about beforehand, of course, we're riding along with Wesley Van der Linden here. I said he's probably shooting for a top 5 today, and it seems like everything's trying to keep him out of those top 5 positions, but he is trying his best, trying to catch that Ferrari in front of him, try and lock up a P5. Still got long way to go. Most guys, I believe everyone still has 2 pit stops besides We do have some people that have taken 3. P13 and back all mostly on 2 pit stops already.
I think you mean they've already taken a pit stop and still 2 left to take.
Yes, I apologize. I misspoke. My bad.
Honestly, B, you know what? If you've taken 3 pit stops already, then fair play, because I don't know how you've done it. But either way,
I know some have definitely had some damage stops towards the back, but overall, next pit stop, I'd say coming within, I know they just took them, but I'll guesstimate within the next 35 to 40 minutes, we'll see these guys come back down.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if there is more damage done. And as well, you've got to think as well, these brakes on each of these cars, we've mentioned countless times how much braking you need to use for these corners, but I think we're just going to have to start thinking of the territory of getting these brakes replaced and making sure that they're not being worn down completely.
Yeah, and that's something we haven't really talked too much about today, the importance of keeping those brakes cool and in good condition. It is very hard around this track to take care of your brakes, especially with all these hard braking zones, especially going down, turn 1. Gets those brakes really, really hot, and when they get hot, they don't respond as well. So getting down into this overtaking zone, you have to be extremely careful, because if you overbrake, you're going to wipe out not just you, but the car in front of you as well. So it's extremely important, managing your brakes and all the other aspects that come along with wheeling these machines around the Hungaroring.
Yeah, and just seeing now, as we go on board with Wesley van der Linden, you can see how much gear changes that are needed on a course like this, especially within this first sector as we go to second gear, now third gear. This is one of my favourite turns, actually, that turn that Wesley van der Linden just did. And it's something that really, it does encourage speed, but also if you mess it up, you are gone, you are sideways, and your race isn't over, but I think you'd be wishing that it was, because you can easily go into a wall.
Exactly, Matt, and that's what makes this track so fun. It's so technical, and it's so satisfying to finally get those corners perfect. You got to be in the right gear, got to get the right braking zone. Trail braking, also extremely important in some corners around this track. People, if you don't know what trail braking is, it's when you brake and slowly let off so that you can get the front of the car turned. It's very, very important to trail brake and to maintain your braking zones on this track. Super, super important.
Yeah, it's something that each of these drivers are going to need a lot of to try and keep their positions and keep their time deltas down and in around each other. As you can see at the top of your screen, Barnabas has got a time penalty for crossing the pit lane exit, and so that is yet another penalty. A lot of these penalties that have been deployed have now been redacted. Would you go with redacted? Erased. Yeah, that's not that word, isn't it? Current penalties are for... Yeah, sometimes I can't speak English. Asic has a 5-second penalty, Andy Brown with a 10-second penalty, Veliev Bekir with a 5-second penalty, and I've just looked at their car off camera. It is a mess. It is an absolute mess. And I don't know how it's still driving. Shilagi Bernabash, obviously with a 5-second penalty as well, you just saw there. And Zhenden Chan, the Singaporean driver with a 5-second penalty, as well. As we go back on board with Chateau Vincho, who is just having a very boring race, honestly. I mean, you could be at the back of the pack and you could be fighting and you go away, but actually you must be really bored. Come on, Chateau Vincho, give some action.
You know what they say, man. It's lonely at the top, and there is no one that exemplifies that quite like the Aston Martin driver of Certo Vincio. Just an absolute clinic once again. They say domination gets boring. Recently, NASCAR just did a race at North Wilkesboro. Joey Logano led 300 of the 450 laps. Absolute domination. I'll be honest with you, pretty boring. But you love to see a driver go out and do what they do best. And Certo Vincio is certainly doing that today.
Yes, agreed. And to make that Aston Martin work like they are is incredible work, and that really shows the power of, showing of how, if you want to master a car that's lesser in the frame, then you can do that. But here we see a battle between Andy Brown and Villiers Becky at the back of the pack. You can see what I mean when I say Villiers Becky, even from this aerial view, has got so much damage to the car. And it's honestly surprising how there is even still an engine inside of it, because it wouldn't surprise me if it was in the audience somewhere or just on the grass somewhere. But either way, Villiers Becky is going to keep this P23 position for now. But Andy Brown, the Canadian, is going to really try and go for this, as Oscar Whitehead now has a time penalty as well. As we...
Matt, that BMW looks like it's being held together with hopes and dreams.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in P23, I think it's what a lot of drivers are being held up by, but Villiers Becky has just taken that to the car. Drive it like you stole it, except if you can't drive, then maybe you shouldn't drive it like you stole it, as it is Andy Brown going wide and going for a spin, and, I mean, yeah, maybe he shouldn't drive it like he stole it either, because if he's my getaway driver, I'm not too happy, but Villiers Becky has now confirmed P23 for at least a little bit, unless Andy Brown decides that he wants back into the action. But I'm honestly being surprised no matter if or where this BMW finishes, as long as it does finish, because honestly I feel like that is more impactful and honestly more impressive than Chateau Vincher winning in P1 by a landslide.
Yeah, man, it'll be very fun to see where this guy finishes. He's wheeling around. I'm going to just say it. He's wheeling around a hunk of junk right now. He's struggling. I know that car is not going where he wants to do. That aero damage, not as big of a deal on this track, but it's hurting him down the straights. I think he's just looking to finish this race and probably get on home.
Meanwhile, we'll switch back with the Mexican Gil Sarabia, who we've not spoken about much recently, now towards the back of Wesley van der Linden. So this could be a battle for P6 here coming up shortly, as Sarabia launches himself into that corner and goes a bit wider, but actually doesn't have that bad of an exit. So this is where the McLaren I think thrives, because the McLaren is so good at cornering, and not only just the Hungaroring, but especially this first sector where it is requiring a lot of speed into these corners and coming up to the chicane as well. It's somewhere where the McLaren can really sort of stretch stuff.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. The McLaren high downforce, beautifully aerodynamic, especially through these first couple corners, turn 1, 2, and 3. Kind of not turn 1 as much, but turns 2 and 3. A little bit of 4 as well. Very sweeping corners. Very important to be able to keep that power down and go as fast as you can through that section of the track. The McLaren absolutely going to excel at that portion of the track for sure.
Yeah, I do agree, and it looks like he is just catching up to Wesley van der Linden slowly but surely. We'll come back to that in a little while, but here we are with Marius Isinger now, who's still running P4, and we'll go back to it instantly because Sarabia is in the dirt. I'm not sure what happened there, but Sarabia, I don't know if it's just spun out or got into the back of van der Linden or what, but either way, in the dirt. And so that battle was over before it even gets started.
You are correct, my friend.
We will just get a replay of what happened between Sarabia and van der Linden. Yeah, Sarabia just gets into the back of him. Simple and short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah, and it's good he got it slowed up enough just to where the bump to the back of Wesley van der Linden just made him loose, and not Wesley van der Linden as well. Very good on Gil Sarabia for not taking out another driver there and taking the full force of that little spin by himself.
Yeah, no, I do agree. It's going to be difficult for Sarabia to get back into this race though, and it's still just following behind Dan Leeson now in P3. So again, we could have a fight for P3, but last time I said this, I end up with a Mexican in the back of a Dutchman. So that sounds really wrong when I say it like that, doesn't it? But anyway, now we have a German trying to fight the Dutchman for P3. These two are veterans once again of full Grip Motorsport, and you can see how much they are, or how little I should say, they're willing to yield the place to each other.
Oh, especially on this track, Matt, you're not going to get any quarter from anyone. They know how hard it is to fight and claw for every position on this track, and they are not going to give it away easily. I can promise you that. And I know Dan Leeson, he is not about to give away P3 to Marius Isinger lightly. Marius Isinger is going to have to fight and claw. There might be blood, sweat, tears, maybe even some ectoplasm by the time we're done with this fight, Matt.
See, you just saying that there might be some ectoplasm has just made what I was saying before just make it look even weirder. Like, it's really just not helping me at all.
We're gonna forget the past 2 minutes. We're gonna move on.
Yeah, we need that thing from Men in Black, the little like memory thing.
Yeah, we need the memory flasher stick thing.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. I've not watched Men in Black, I can't lie, but maybe it's in and of itself. But we'll continue. We'll focus back in on the races. What the Hungarian can do to you is this. And Leeson now going to come into some back traffic. You can see that Porsche of Barnabas just in front of Dan Leeson, so holding up the BMW driver, and has actually slowed him down so much that Istria might have a go here. Still on the outside, could try and get moved done, but has to back out just before this right-hander. And you can see as well Zhenda Chan in front of Barnabas as well, and Leeson has to slow right down to give Barnabas the room. And even though these two will be under blue flags, it seems like they're not willing to move out of the way just yet.
Yeah, Matt, and you have to wonder, how far can they really move out of the way without compromising their own lap? And that's what's so difficult about this track right here. The lap cars also, there's really only one lane to ride if you want to have a fast lap. So it's really tough for these lap cars to want to move out of the way for these leaders. And you can tell those lap cars might have hurt Marius Isinger's exit on turn 14 in his run down the straight. And you can see Dan Leeson taking off a little bit, and you got to wonder what Mr. Isinger's thinking right now.
Probably not very good things that Zhenda Chan is forced to move out of the way, and I believe Zhenda Chan's actually going to be forced to move out of the way of... Actually, no, Zhenda Chan's not going to be forced to move out of the way of Barnabas, so that is something as we ride on board with Marius Isinger as he tries to catch up with Dan Leeson, who's actually going to try and send it just for time purposes, just try and get towards Dan Leeson a bit more. And in this BMW where he won he didn't win his most recent race, he got P3 in his most recent race, not his best finish in the past 4 races at the Hungaroring, but it's still a good finish either way, and currently matching it in that BMW.
Yeah, man, Marius, he's coming. I really think he's going to have Dan dead to rights here soon. The way he's running his laps and just the way the Ferrari runs around this track, I really think he's going to have a good shot here. If he can just exit turn 14 with a little bit more speed than Dan ahead of him, I think he's going to get him. And it'll be very soon here, coming around turn 14. Oh, he's going for it.
Top of your screen there, Nikola Lukatic with a stop and go 30-second penalty, but here we go. Isinger trying to have a look on this final corner, but not getting it done. Leeson's just going to try and break the slipstream, try and get Isinger into a bad spot for this first corner, and Isinger is not going to have the speed and momentum to make a move onto Dan Leeson, or at least even try it.
That was smart.
The BMW keeps in P3, but for now, as Isinger looks to close in and goes wide, very wide on the track, and Isinger's chances at P3 have just shrunk exponentially. Another Ferrari driver is in a spot of bother.
Wow. You see, he's pushing. He's every ounce of power he can get out of this car he's trying to get, and he was so close that last time. You have to wonder if maybe his head was not completely in the right spot, not being able to complete that pass. And you saw how Dan Leeson was moving all over the front stretch, breaking that slipstream, and Marius Isinger with another mistake. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Dan broke the slipstream very well getting into turn 1, not allowing Marius Isinger to catch up. Very, very smart move for Dan. Good job on his part.
Yeah, just saw Essinger lose it in towards the back, in towards the chicane. Had to cut a bit of the track just because of that losing the back, and you can still see Essinger with this damage still coming in and around. And I think this is, well, it's not about the time where people need to make another pit stop just yet. Well, I'm not sure when exactly Essinger took their first pit stop, but still there's a question about tyres that will be coming up in about 20 minutes time, especially if you've still got 2 pit stops to go, which I think everyone still has. So it's going to be interesting to see when drivers take their laps. My director's been in the air 33 minutes ago. Essinger took his first pit stop, so maybe those tyres aren't helping, although they could also just be in the prime.
Yeah, that's my thought as well. I'm going to see how he takes this corner, and it seems riding that middle line like he's not really trying to get on the curb there. It's really hard to tell how good a driver's tires are doing during the race, and we got a replay coming up here.
Yeah, replay from Marius Essinger on that corner. You can just see still in second. I think it was just too much speed. I don't think it was an issue with tyres. It's just too much speed being carried into that corner, and Dan Leeson, you can just see how much time he gained even in that screenshot. And Leeson has gotten away from the Hunter. 2.3 seconds the gap between Leeson and Essinger, but 2.3 seconds with a mistake can be made up in a matter of moments.
Completely correct, Matt. And we gotta give props to Mr. Dan Leeson here. Ran a great race so far today. Did not crack under pressure. If anything, made the right moves on the front stretch to break up that slipstream, get Marius Essinger in the wrong headspace, and maybe even force that mistake on the backstretch. You know what I mean? So very good job on Dan Leeson running his race, maintaining position, making sure he's where he needs to be.
You can see Essinger in the back there, and you also see at the top of your screen Nikola Lukadic with a stop and go penalty, so he will have to serve that, as we'll go back into a possible fight with Gail Sarabia, who's caught right up to the back of Wesley van der Linden once again, and for half a second I thought he was going to go straight into the back of him once again. Mexican learned his lesson though, and so still has this opportunity to take a fight with Wesley van der Linden for P6.
Yeah, man, and I would really like to point out Gail Sarabia's resilience, man. How many times have we seen him make a mistake, spin out, something happen to him, and he gets right back up in the fight, right back where we expect him to be, top 10, duking it out with Wesley van der Linden, full Grip Motorsport legend.
Yeah, didn't have the greatest time at his last Hungaroring race, was a P14 and a DNF in his most recent race at Spa, but his previous 2 before that were in the side of the top 3, so he's going to be disappointed with how that Spa race went, and that last race at Hungaroring, which was very disappointing for the Mexican. So looking to make amends here as he was all over the back of Wesley van der Linden as we go on this front view of him, and you can just see with this front view how close he is to the Ferrari and how little there will be in making that move. Although Sarabia brakes early, van der Linden just holds the brakes a bit and waits for the perfect moment to get away from Sarabia. You see how close he's getting. I think there might have been just a nudge from Gail Sarabia. I think it was nothing more than a nudge, nothing more towards damage, but see how hard these two are racing.
Yeah, man. We'll watch his run coming up the front. I don't believe he's going to be close enough, even with the slipstream. Wesley van der Linden not even bothering defending here. He knows he's got the space. But Gail Sarabia making a really good case today for our driver of the day, man. He's been very resilient, very, very fast. Been a good race for him. Maybe not good race, but eventful race. Entertaining race. I think that's what I'll go with.
Entertaining race is what we do at Full Grip Motorsport. And if you want to keep updated with these races, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel at Full Grip Motorsport, or follow us on Twitch at Full Grip Motorsport, and as well you can look at the website fullgripmotorsport.com to see how you can get involved with events like this as well. And still, Gail Sarabi is all over the back of Wesley van der Linden, so still it feels like a matter of time before this battle is being held, and it could even come at the chicane. So yeah, slow Wesley van der Linden's going, and Sarabia putting himself in a good position once again, and this time it feels like a position where a move, an attempt will be made, but still Wesley van der Linden is barely just getting away from him.
Yeah, Wesley van der Linden doing what he needs to do, maintaining that gap. And you wonder if Gail Sarabia is getting a little antsy, knowing he's close to maintaining, or to taking that position away from Wesley van der Linden, getting really close there, and he's on his tail.
Yeah, but tail is not a pass, and look, we're going side by side. No, Wesley van der Linden is still just sneaking in front still for this last corner. It is going to be interesting into this straight. Veli of Bakir with a stop and go penalty. You can see at the top of your screen 30 seconds is the punishment, and still Sarabia just doesn't have the front straight line speed as the Ferrari, and so Sarabia forced to concede yet again, as there's almost a dive bomb on the inside, but Wesley van der Linden shuts that door before he even reaches the doorstep.
Yeah, man, it looked like he thought about it there, but just was not quite confident in that car to be able to make the move. And Matt, you were talking about Full Grip Motorsport and the community we're building over here, doing a great job. YouTube channel actually just recently passed 300 subscribers. I just wanted to point that out and say thank you all so much for being here, just coming out, watching these races, supporting the team. It means so much. It means the world.
Yes, and it keeps building our community as well, so make sure to keep an eye on these races. And meanwhile, we're still with Wesley van der Linden and Gail Sarabia. Sarabia, it just feels like every time we see him, he just keeps getting closer. Every time, you know, if you blink, you get closer, but then you blink again and it's further, and it's closer, further, closer, further. Still holding about 0.2 of a second away from Wesley van der Linden. But here we go.
Is he going to go?
Chance into this corner. No, Wesley van der Linden. Brilliant job at defending and just keeping that door shut, no matter how hard Sarabia pounds and knocks and tries to push this door open. Wesley van der Linden stays strong in his holding. But now we could be in for it as we go into the last corner before the straight. But
he's going to have a shot.
Forced into the brakes. And this time, I don't know if he will. I don't know if the straight line speed is there. And you can see the Ferrari just outpacing the McLaren, even with this slipstream.
Oh man, I thought he was going to have it. He was right there on the end, but the Ferrari able to put the power down fast enough. Gale not quite able to make it, but he is right on his tail for the past 3 to 4 laps. What a battle, Matt.
Yeah, hell of a battle indeed. And it's not one that Gail Sarabia is getting victories in, still remaining between 5/10 and about 2/10 away at every stage. And these little straights, we're talking how limited you are with these straights and these top speed moments, but the few that there are, Sarabia, so much downforce on that McLaren. It's just, I don't know if the McLaren's actually bottoming out. I don't think it is, but I just don't think it's anywhere near as quick on the acceleration as the Ferrari is. But in those corners there, it's really gapping the Ferrari and the Dutchman, but just some excellent defending from Wesley van der Linden, and Sarabia just not able to force that move through.
Absolutely, Matt, and it's really cool watching him try. He's trying everything. If you watch, he moves around the track trying to go where Wesley van der Linden is not. See right there, fakes the move to the inside, maybe trying to run Wesley van der Linden a little wide, force a mistake maybe. This is where Gail Sarabia has been losing all his speed. If he can run through turn 13 and carry that speed into turn 14, he'd have a better shot, but it just looks like the Ferrari has so much more grip and power coming out into the straight right here that he just cannot get close enough to get that move into turn 1 done.
Yeah, and you can see there as well at the top of your screen, Wesley van der Linden, a time penalty there for causing a collision, so that is a total time penalty of 15 seconds for the Dutchman in P6. So, I mean, basically, Sarabia has already overtaken him, but the Mexican obviously doesn't want to get held up with this because there's still a chance that of a top 5 finish for the Mexicans, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Mobile Gaming as well gets a time penalty as well, and still Sarabia, even though he's essentially got the position on Van der Linden, he's still got to fight for it, and fighting for it just increases the time gap between him and LO6, which is about 17 seconds or 18 seconds between those two currently, and Sarabia still has Van der Linden to get through.
Yeah, he's gonna have to fight. Gale, right now, he's really, I believe, especially since Wesley van der Linden has that time penalty, he's really gonna force the issue here, because I believe he thinks he's faster and he believes he can run faster laps. So I would not expect to see Gale with some extreme aggression, especially knowing van der Linden has that time penalty applied now.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time penalty for Van der Linden anyway, but beforehand, is because Sarabia just trying to brake so late into those corners, trying to get as much time as possible, but every time he's forced onto the brakes because the Mexican's just going too deep and it's just not allowing him. He has to get onto the brakes and can't keep that acceleration, that momentum flowing, and loses the time in these last few sectors, and now in the front straight just completely gapped by the Ferrari as we have under an hour and a half to go, just over halfway at the Hungaroring, and still some sunny skies up ahead, so no more worries of rain it seems.
Yeah, and Gale Sarabia, like I was talking about that aggression, you saw him run wide into turn 13. That's where most of that time was lost. So wanting that position more probably caused that mistake, just trying to get by, and you wound up hurting yourself more in the process. We see that a lot in motorsports.
Yeah, it's not only GT motorsports, it's something that happens across all the motorsports. Is now we are starting to get into the sort of area where pit stops are going to need to be taken. Emil Antonsson is going to be in the pits for their first pit stop, and there's a few others as well going in for their second pit stop. With Antonsson, I mean second pit stop, as the Van der Linden's gone sideways and is into the barrier, and Sarabia's got the move done, but not by anything that he's done. But see, Van der Linden has now gone into the wall and has retired from the race because of it.
Oh man, and there goes those P5 dreams for Wesley van der Linden. And that's how easy. Oh, Dan Leeson! Woo! Getting loose onto the front stretch. I thought he was going around. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, a lot of action in a very short time. Leeson still having to try and fight with Dan Leeson, with Marius Issenger, to try and keep that P3, as Issenger's right on the back end of Dan Leeson. And we talked about Wesley van der Linden again being shunned a bit by a back marker earlier on this race. Now the focus goes in between the Dutch and the German drivers, Dan Leeson and Marius Issenger.
Yeah, this is about to be a great battle, especially with we got the Ferrari that we know is good coming onto the front stretch, good overtaking zone, but the BMW also very strong in the straights, extremely fast. It's about to be really fun here in a lap or two.
Maybe see how close Issenger, getting very close to the back end of Dan Leeson there, not able to make a move and not wanting to really create any contact anyway, not really fancying a penalty for some reason, not sure why. You wouldn't want a penalty in a race at the Hungaroring.
Give me all the penalties, I'll take them all.
Yeah, give him the penalties. We'll be fine. Could be Cristiano Ronaldo, okay? Anyway, we still see Marius Issenger and Dan Leeson fighting for the spot. Issenger's just still struggling to really make up that gap, and we've seen how the BMW is in the straight line as well, so it's just, it feels like it's going to be another Wesley van der Linden Gale Sarabia situation where, sure, Issenger is a lot better in the corners, but on the straights, the BMW can just completely have their way with the Ferrari, and look at the gap that's already being built.
That BMW straight line speed is something to behold, man. It is going to be very hard to get around that German machine.
Yeah, German firepower, as you see on the McLaren in the background, goes wide. One of the back markers not having the greatest race, and there's Oidevoda in the background as well, who's just about made that pass. Mobile Gaming's has now got I believe that is a drive-through penalty. It is indeed for the Singaporean driver, who is currently one of the back markers, currently sitting, I believe, in P14, just behind the other Singaporean driver of Zhenden Chan, I should say. So, Singaporean brothers, the Singaporean drivers uniting there. Is Marius Issenger still trying to get across to the back end of Dan Lees, and we'll have another look whilst this battle is going on at the incident with Wesley van der Linden and Gail Sarabia. Oh, Wesley van der Linden, Gail Sarabia. Wesley van der Linden, yeah, you can see here, just loses it on that turn, loses the back end, goes into the wall, and it's an immediate retirement from the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, Matt, it looked like he got up on that curb right there and just got the Ferrari unsteady. Went around on him. You got to be very careful, especially on these worn tires. They've been racing on these guys for a hot minute now. Got to be extremely cautious coming around these bumps.
Yeah, you can see there, bottom right of your screen, Blake Lewis taking their second pit stop. A first place finish in all 5 of their previous races in Hungary. All those in a McLaren for Blake Lewis, so very much a pro at this course, but will lose 2 places due to being in the pits. Dan Leeson now goes up in second. Marius Issenger now on the podium in P3. Both of these drivers still yet to take their second pit stop. And remember, there is 3 mandatory ones, so these drivers getting in early, is that a benefit, or is that maybe a detriment, considering that that means their tyres will be going off a lot earlier than some of these other drivers?
Yeah, Matt. Well, it really all comes down to strategy. At this point, the drivers, they definitely know about how long these tires are good for and at what point they start to run off. I would trust in them and say that they'll stay out as long as they can, but they're going to try and split these last 2 pit stops so that during the final stint, their tires are as good as possible and do not run out. Because what you do not want to do is make a pit stop too early and then you're riding around on torn rubber. And that's just going to ruin the end of your race. So it's very important to time these pit stops and make sure you know about how long they can hold on for.
Indeed so, and you can see with Marius Issenger there's Dan Leeson ahead of him, but there's also the Mercedes of Andy Brown ahead of Leeson, so there's a lot of hope that this back market can hold up the Dutch drivers. We look on the outside just to have a look, see what's happening. Not going to make the move as Andy Brown goes wide, but it's also going to go into the pits, and so your hopes of the back marker holding up the Dutch Dan Leeson is a no-go for now, but there is another one you can see faintly in the distance just ahead of Dan Leeson. That is the 81 there up ahead. I believe that is Hugo Moller, so potentially a German helping out another German. Hugo Moller sat in P19 currently. And this could do with a big favour.
Yeah, and he might get one right here. Dan Leeson coming up to the bumper of this back marker car. And as the car being hawked down, you definitely do not want to see that. And they get by just fine.
Yeah, Muller just hopped on the brakes a bit there when Leeson was on the other side of the road. Just hopped on the brakes, didn't want to fight anything, and decided not to do the German brother any good. So Leeson still remains in P2, Jeto Vincio still in P1, someone who's not really talked about much, but who's not really needs to, because there's been nothing really happening in P1 for now. This is where all the action is, in the mid-pack, and meanwhile Blake Lewis, who was our former P2, is now in P4. You see there more pit stops coming in across the pack. Emil Antonsen has a drive-through penalty now as well. I believe that is Matt, the Turkish driver now in the pits.
Yeah, the McLaren of B. Lewis, first driver in fourth now with 2 pit stops under their belt. So we'll see where this all cycles out.
Yeah, Zhenden Chan as well with a drive-through penalty there. And you can see now Marius Issenger is now going into the pits for their second pit stop, so is probably going to trade that P4 back with Blake Lewis, and Dan Leeson staying out for at least a little while longer, at least a lap I should say, as Gail Sarabia picks up a 30-second stop and go penalty as well.
Yeah, and the pits will close down not too long from now, about a little under an hour from now. So I assume, being that they're taking their pit stops now, they'll probably come in about a lap or two before the pits close for good. So, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, you can see still got 1 or 2 pit stops to go. You can see there Ilya Jean in the BMW there, also in the pits now. Ilya Jean, I should say, apologies for getting that wrong, but here is Certo Vincio making their way forward. Can get past Jenta Chan fairly easily, and just ahead of him there you can see the debutant Valek Rybisk in the BMW as well. And you know, Certo Vincio has been absolutely incredible once again this race.
Yeah, man, always, from the past 2 races I've seen, this guy is incredible, consistent, strong in this Aston Martin, which you don't see a lot of, so it's really a statement that he can come out here and run very well in a car that just does not seem to be the most popular.
Yeah, and you know, normally I would say like, oh, not getting involved in any of the actions previously, big hand in Certo Vincio and helping him, but at the same, and that's probably the reason why he's in P1, but at the same time, the best lap was set by Certo Vincio as a 142.812. Behind him, Dan Leeson, his best lap was a 144.8. Blake Lewis's best lap was a 144.36. It's incredible, and so it's not only just not being involved in any incidents or whatever, it's also just great driving as is.
Yeah, man, just pure pace. Certo Vincio's got that in spades. He is so fast. And just the consistency is incredible to watch, man. It really is incredible to see someone be able to run these sim races like that. And this stuff is not easy. To be consistent for 3 hours straight, man, it is brutal. 3 hours straight of focusing, making sure that this car is doing everything you need it to do. Hats off to Certo Vincio every time I see him race.
Yeah, and we'll now look at L6, who is just behind Florian Brown, who is snuck with the P5. Emil Antonsen behind in P7, so those two still a bit of a rivalry throughout this race. Friendly mostly, not friendly sometimes, but L6 now in the Ferrari against the McLaren. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out. As you can see XR Arav just coming out of the pits and going into the grass, and you see there as well, that's Toby Brown into the wall as well. Toby Brown, a Canadian, not having a great race so far, going it all the way back. I actually don't know where, he's back in 22nd, currently last place out of the drivers that remain.
Yeah, and he's got very big damage on the front of that AMG. Gonna be hard to get that thing, gonna be hard to get that thing out of last place for sure.
Yeah, and Florian Brown still just trying to get as many laps done as they can to get away from LS6 into the chicane. You can see it as well, track getting darker as LS6 does go a bit into the track limits there. It looked like it gets the pass into Florian Brown anyway, as Dan Leeson has now entered the pits for his second pit stop, but LS6 is going to go up into P5, but I think that will be reviewed by the stewards, so I think there might have been a bit of a break of track limits there.
Yeah, we'll check that out. It looked like Florian Brown had a little trouble getting into turn 6 and 7, got a little loose, did not take the chicane properly, and LS6 capitalized on it. We will see what the stewards have to say about that little incident right there, but definitely something LS6 wanted to see. Does not want to see a penalty, however.
You also saw that Emil Antonsen has a 5-second time penalty as well, although Melandonson is a minute and 20 behind Flying Brown, who is only 0.5 of a second away from Six, who has come out of nowhere. I've not seen them recently on full Grip Motorsport stream, but they've really come out of the gates, especially with the Hungaroring debut. Did win their last race at Spa, but from Spa to the Hungaroring is a big difference.
Yes, Matt, that is correct. Spa and Hungary are almost on the two complete separate sides of the spectrum when it comes to tracks. You know, Spa, very fast, sweeping, big elevation changes, you know, and you got Hungary, very few passing zones, relatively slower circuit. There's just extremely technical and worrying less about speed coming through the corners and things like that, as Gail Sarabia going on the inside here.
Yeah, fighting with Emil Antonsson. This is going to be an interesting battle for P7 if Antonsson can stay ahead of Sarabia as we go onto this front straight. We've seen that the McLaren does not have the same straight line speed as Wesley van der Linden. What about with Antonsson setup? Is that anything to do? It looks like they're keeping distance. In fact, it looks like Sarabia might be catching. Goes for a lunge on the inside. Does it brilliantly, but way too far. And Antonsson not only gets the position back, gets a little bit of stability, but Sarabia's actually recovered that quite well. And is still on the back end of Emil Antonsson, as you see Ilya Janot with a drive-through penalty, but Sarabia is still within fighting distance of the Swedish Antonsson.
Yeah, Matt, Gail Sarabia taking no prisoners. He saw an opportunity and he took it. Didn't quite work out for him, but that's what the aggression, I was talking about that earlier. We're getting down into the final third here. I would not doubt if we're going to see some more bombastic dive bombs like that. He's back up to the bumper.
Yeah, back up to the bumper. This is going to be a really interesting little battle. We do have a replay later on. We'll come to that in just a little while, because this battle looks like it's going to get heated again within moments as Antonsson has to try and fight Sarabia in these final few corners once again in this final sector. And with Dan Leeson ahead of Antonsson, you know, if Antonsson can't really do anything about this, he has to hope that Leeson goes quicker, but Leeson's still on those cold tyres, so it's given every right to Sarabia to make this overtake. Antonsson goes to the outside, fakes to the inside now, and still trying, but Antonsson shuts the door now. But we've seen Sarabia catch up on the straights, something that we didn't see him do against Wesley van der Linden. Antonsson's still behind Leeson, and Sarabia is going to get the slipstream of Antonsson, who's getting the slipstream of Leeson. Antonsson trying to break and cover that inside line. There's it, contact, and Antonsson spun, and Leeson spun as well.
Oh my gosh!
But massive calamity. Sarabia involved again, but Antonsson goes spinning and takes down Leeson down with him.
Oh my goodness! And if I am Dan Leeson, I am fuming mad right now. And it didn't take very long for that penalty to come in for Gail Sarabia right there, man. Just super aggressive, trying to get down into the hard braking of turn one. Got into the back, man, and that messes up two other people's day. Yikes, what a moment right there, Matt.
Big talking point in this race, but we'll take you to that replay that we were talking about earlier.
Wow.
But, I mean, it just take a second to process what has happened between Sarabia, Antonsson, and Leeson. Thankfully, Leeson has still a 30-second gap, so where he is holding, and you can see there with LS6, yeah, that first one, it looked like it was just off, but then, yeah, you can see there is off-track limits, it looks like, or it's not by much, but it looks like barely, and considering the fact that it resulted in a position change, it's really surprising that Stewart hasn't said anything. But yeah, I think as Antonsson actually trying to defend that inside line, and Sarabia just really not expecting it, expecting the lunge to come through, and Antonsson just gets spun, which then results in Leeson being spun as well. So, I mean, it's just Nelson's, it's going to come to me in a minute, Newton's cradle of calamity.
Absolutely, Matt, and I probably couldn't have described it better myself. That is exactly what happened there. And you saw, I've been talking about Gale's aggression this entire second half of this race, man. He's been so aggressive trying to make these spots up. And Antonsen, he went for the dive bomb. Gale said he was going for the dive bomb too, and I just don't. I think it was a little late for Gale to get out of the brakes there. Got into the back of Antonsen and wound up collecting Dan Leeson as well, man. It's a tough incident. Racing hard.
Or racing hard or hardly racing as we look towards the back of the pack there with that Laszlo Jacques now, the British driver now, going to try and put some pressure on Hugo Molla for this P18th position. Not much has been done about the back of the pack. A lot of these drivers have not had much to really celebrate, although a few of them have been getting themselves involved with some of the front runners. As we see Laszlo now just trying to get on the inside of Hugo Molla, the German, who again has had a very quiet race, not been able to do much as the German. And Jacques, you know, this is, like we mentioned earlier, 223rd race for full Grip Motorsport, and yet still struggling at the back of the pack. It's got to sting a bit for Laszlo Jacques.
Yeah, man, even veterans can have their off days, you know what I mean? And it's great to see. We've got vets of the series, we have newbies, and it's awesome just to see where they all run. And as particularly how do you know how well he has done on other tracks of the same nature, or do we have those stats?
I can tell you for a fact that Laszlo Jacques, who is now in P18, managed to get the overtaken to Hugo Molla in that first turn. That Jacques has out 10 of his last races his last 7 out of 10 races has been at the Hungaroring, and with his best finish being P7, it's still fairly low down for someone of his nature.
Well, man, you know what they say. If you're going through hell, keep going.
Yeah, I can't think of that better, but we will have a replay in a second. Laszlo Jacques is actually going to get a drive-through penalty, and I believe that's Arav who's out on the field there. Has spun around completely off the field there actually, and missed the pit lane, so is now going to go back into the pit lane and go for their pit stop. As we go back and see Gehls Arabia with Lucas Laszlo Jacques.
Yeah,
Let's
Matt,
get that overtake on the back marker.
The way he entered the pits there makes me wonder if he will get if maybe he was trying to enter the pits and spun out coming through turn 14, but that is not how you enter the pits. I would not be surprised to see that he got an unsafe pit entry penalty there.
Yeah, it's definitely not surprising as Blake Lewis now will go back and forth with almost losing the front net in that McLaren, and still so far away from Certo Vinci. Actually not that far away, only 4 seconds away from the Aston Martin, and is now going to be on the overtake of Junker Max Payne now, who has had a poor race as well. A lot of penalties coming his way, but Blake Lewis is on the charge and now has to deal with Arav as well, just ahead of him. And I believe, there's contact between the two. Arav saves it, but that was close.
Yeah, good on him being able to hold on to that car there. I thought he was going around. Very good save.
And well, he didn't save it because he's now off the track.
Well,
and
spoke too
the Indian driver has been forced off, I think, by Blake Lewis, although there might have been a collision afterwards because Arav was still trying to fight as we got back with Blake Lewis as he made that pass, but only slowed down Blake Lewis. Still 5 seconds away from Certo Vinci, who's now on this start-go finish. And Vinci, I mean, I'm watching the Delta just go up and up and up, even on this straight. Just no hope for Blake Lewis to catch up.
And I don't know if anybody will catch up with this Aston Martin running a 1:44.197 last lap. So that's 2 seconds faster than the next, almost 2 seconds faster than the next closest. So he's rolling. And there
So
was
actually
contact, yeah.
Whereas multiple bits of contact there, first with the Ford, and then with the Blake Lewis, and then again with the number 5 McLaren. I believe that was Junker Max Payne as well, and that Ford with Mobile Gaming. So a lot of contact there between Arav, the Indian driver, as well as a few others, as we stay with Blake Lewis, who, I mean, still has a pit stop to take as to most of the graders. There is under 45 minutes left to take until that pit window is closed. There's still a lot of people with penalties, and few with drive-throughs. Laszlo Skax is one of those with drive-through penalties.
Yeah, man, in a drive-through at this point of the race, it's basically over for you. Final third, coming down in the last hour now. You lose 30 seconds. There is no hope for you to make that up during these final stints of the race. So if you're going to be penalty happy, you really, really, really want to get those done in the first third. Get it out of your system.
Yeah, and you're just seeing the difference between Chateau Vincho and Blake Lewis. Chateau Vincho has just gone out onto this front straight now, and Blake Lewis has only just come into that final corner. So and just see how much of a time difference there is between those two. 7 seconds ahead is Chateau Vincho as he now goes into turn 1, and Blake Lewis still on the front straight. But I mean, how do you deal with this pace? You've got to just hope that Vincho has a bad qualifying or gets really screwed in qualifying, because he'll just get first every time. But you can see now Blake Lewis has a time penalty for causing a collision, so that would have been the earlier one. With
no,
Arav.
Oh man, well, Blake Lewis is just gonna have to try and put that gap up, man. Especially, you hate to see that incident get him a penalty, but you have to be cautious. You have to be cautious.
Yeah, and here we are back with Dan Leeson, and you just see
Blake
there,
Lewis.
and Arav actually slams on the brakes. I think Arav wasn't thinking Lewis was taking the same line, and so actually that penalty has gone. A penalty's gone to Arav as well for causing collision. I'm not sure if it was the one beforehand or the one after. It might have even been that one. So it's going to be interesting to see if Blake Lewis actually does have this penalty rescinded, and it's given to Arav instead for causing that collision, because it looked like Arav actually slammed on the brakes beforehand, and it threw Blake Lewis completely off.
Yeah, Matt, we'll have to see what the stewards say about that. Very interesting and tough situation. It'll fall in the hands of our FGM stewards. I know Lewis is not happy.
I don't think there's many drivers that have been happy today with some of the incidents that have happened. One driver that is happy is Chateau Vincho, who's still very far out in P1. LS6 is another driver that can be happy today with their performance in their Hungarian debut. P5 for the French driver, and it looks like it's going to stay that way because Flying Brown is a fair bit away from the driver.
Yeah, P1 through 5, relatively spread out across the track. Most positions set in stone for now, I'd say. No real big battles between the front pack or the front couple of guys. Serto Vincho, we just got word a whole lap ahead of Mr. Lewis in P2. Just absolutely incredible. Do we even know if Serto Vincho has a soul? Is he one with the machine at this point?
Maybe it's one of those I deal with the devil type things where Chateau Vincho has to like live in hell forever, but then has to come out once every however long to race for Grip Motorsport, and it's just every time it does he's in first. So maybe it's that kind of situation. I don't know. Maybe Chateau Vincho will have to come in for an interview at some point and tell us the secrets of this possessed Aston Martin, perhaps, because it's acting like it is possessed. And I mean, is there anything to really, deny that at this point?
No, man. I mean, maybe he's like a vampire and he pops out every Sunday just to come run a race, and then he goes right back to bed for the next week.
You say about most of our drivers, and it's not just talking about their performance. But I know I can say that about myself. That's all I'm going to say. I know I can say that about myself.
Hey man, it definitely takes one to know one. So we got a booth of vampires over here. I completely understand.
Yeah, and I think sometimes our production team feels the same as well. Although maybe it's just them wanting us to go to sleep because they're sick of hearing us and just come up with nonsensical things to say and calling people vampires. But if you also want to be called a vampire, no guarantees that we will, but you can actually join the event and the racing Discord on fullgripmotorsport.com if you want to get involved with the races. We have Assetto Corsa Competizione, Assetto Corsa Evo, and just regular Assetto Corsa. And most of them aren't even streamed. There's stuff daily that happens, it feels like, and I think it is actually daily. So come down, and if you want to hear us call people vampires and that, then you can subscribe to Full Grip Motorsport on YouTube or follow us on Twitch. As we have we have about an hour to go of this race, and Chateau Vincho still domination coming out from the Aston Martin drive. But here's Laszlo Skax now, who is very far down the pack in P19, has lost that position to Muller. And I think, what did you just get scared by, Hunter?
I thought he was gonna ram into the. Oh gosh, do that! That's what I was scared of, Matt. Right there.
Yeah, that's what Skax. A bit of contact between him and I believe that was Muller as well, the German driver. So Laszlo Skax still P19th in a way. Actually, something to note as well is that I'm actually not sure where Hugo Muller is. It's actually P18. So still trying to fight with the Ferrari and is just trying to fight. But meanwhile, we have a look with Oliver Dixon, because he's someone that's actually gone very much under the radar. Here's Oliver Dixon, the McLaren driver, I should say, in the UK car, who has gained 20 places this race. An incredible drive from the 159, and has just stayed out of any type of controversy this race.
Absolutely, Matt. It's been extremely impressive to see where he started. Started in 30th position, made his way up now to P10. Mr. Dixon doing a great job, staying consistent, staying out of trouble for the most part. I believe I don't see any hard licks on that car at the moment, but very good. And I'm looking at this guy, Matt, driver of the day candidate right here, up 20 spots in an endurance race. He's done great.
Yeah.
Still got an hour to go.
Yeah, I think for now it's going to be Oliver Dixon in that front seat for driver of the day. But you know, I was thinking about giving it to Chateau Vincho, but Oliver Dixon. I mean, the Chateau Vincho is probably just there from by this point. But the problem is, there is always a driver that has just done so well, whether it's an amazing recovery or like Oliver Dixon, where they've gained so many spots. And when you put it into the scope of racing, and especially at a course like Hungary, 3 hours isn't really a lot of laps and a lot of time for drivers to really get in and get stuff done. I mean, I'm not sure which lap. We're currently on the lap I can't actually see because my screen is too small. I have a lot of things on my screen right now, so my main screen is too small. Maybe that's a problem for me. Lap 69, the funny number, so you can stamp down that in whatever chat you're in. But Oliver Dixon, yeah, sure, Shanta. Did not need that at all.
Sorry, bud.
You've already said one curse number, but today let's not say both of them too much. No, Oliver Dixon has been so good this race. As we look back with Chateau Vincho, I can hear him giggling.
Well, Matt, we've been talking a lot about the Full Grip Motorsport community as a whole, and a battle I would like to see a lot, Chateau Vincho versus Wes Lee, which we have not been able to see in the past couple weeks. Wes Lee not present in the past 2 weeks that we've ran, but I would love to see a battle between those two guys.
Yeah, Wes Lee, for those who weren't aware, you can go watch the Silverstone race on YouTube. Was an absolute menace in Britain, and Chateau Vincho has carried the flames since on Spa and now Hungary. And so now, if they were to get into a race possibly next time we stream at Paul Ricard in France, if they were both to get in, we could be down for a very, very interesting showdown. Wesley most likely in the Lexus, Chateau Vincho definitely in the Aston Martin. Be
Yes,
an
sir.
interesting race to say the least, as we follow again with Blake Lewis. The cars have also come in, so there's no weather report for rain in the next half an hour, but that could all change with a coin flip as Blake Lewis now comes through on this front straight. And again, Lewis hasn't really had much happen this race. There was that one incident with CX2 Arav, but apart from that, it's been nothing for the McLaren driver to really sink their teeth into.
Absolutely, Matt. And it's been really interesting watching how this race has developed over the first 2/3. Now dipping into the last third here. Final pit stops going to come in very soon. Pit window closes in 33 minutes, 24 seconds. So these boys definitely thinking about strategy here when they want to come in. And because we got about, what does that say, 55? Yeah, we got about 55 minutes left in the race. So these guys definitely thinking about strategy coming up to these final pit stops.
Their strategy is important. And meanwhile, Marius Issinger has done a good job of catching up with Dan Leeson at 1.4 seconds away from the BMW driver. This is such an interesting battle to see who gets podium position and who finishes just outside. And you know, I wouldn't like to be a betting man in this situation because I genuinely don't know. Issinger has looked very good in those corners, but Leeson in that BMW has so much straight line speed that in the few straight lines and the few straights we have here in Hungary, it just makes such a big difference.
Absolutely, Matt. And that BMW, it can just run away. The amount of power and grip it can put down on these straights, even though they're not very big, it has been so meaningful for Dan Leeson. And the fact that he's been able to excuse me, and the fact that he's been able to hold on to this lead and or not to this lead, but his lead above fourth place for this long, it's a testament to Dan Leeson's driving style for sure. Being able to keep this German beast underneath him and able to apply that power down on the straights. Good on him so far. But Marius Issinger, he's got some words to say, and I think he's about to let him know here very shortly as they run through turn 13.
You can see in the bottom right of your screen that Certo Venture, the race lead, going in for their final pit stop. Thinking early, or not their final pit stop, it's their second pit stop of the race, so still half an hour to go until their final pit stop. So it's going to be interesting to see what the strategy is for Certo Venture, whether and when they actually decide to take this final pit stop, because theoretically, with that final pit stop, their tyres are still going to be good, so it's just going in for a pit stop for the sake of going in for a pit stop, I suppose.
Yeah, might as well. I imagine his tires probably started to wane here not too long. He's been out for a hot minute, but I believe our leader will come in. He will probably come in last lap before pit closes. I believe he did that last week at Spa as well, as this battle on track is heating up.
Yeah, battle on track between Issinger and Leeson really starting to come together now as Issinger really starting to make Leeson sweat now. Leeson thought the ghost in his mirror was now gone, but it's only come back with a bigger rage for the German. Is now Leeson under pressure in the chicane. He's going to be able to perform there, and this is where Leeson starts having those flashbacks with... Oh no, it wasn't Leeson, sorry, it was Lewis having those flashbacks with Arav there, but Leeson's still got to be worried of no mistakes, no back markers in the way. And you can see just ahead of him there are some back markers which Issinger is licking his lips at.
Yeah, Issinger's got a really, really good opportunity here coming through this final section of the track, going through 12, 13, and 14. Marius Issinger's going to want to stay right on his bumper right through here. Extremely important. You see that gap? We'll see if Marius Issinger can close it, but he's really going to want to have a really good run coming out of here. Going to take that wider line. Oh, and Dan Leeson going to pit.
Instead, it's Leeson giving up his spot to go for the pits instead. And that is Leeson's final pit stop that he needs. And Issinger's going to stay out and get into P3. And I think that is strategy, not only for pit strategy, but race strategy as well. Because you can see there, just in front of Marius Issinger, you have two back markers, one of which being Valek Rybisk in that BMW, making the debut for full Grip Motorsport, and ahead of him is Oliver Dixon in the McLaren. So two back markers that Leeson doesn't really want to try and fight with, and doesn't want to give up this position to Isinger. So it's an interesting strategy, but one that works out. Look at that! It's drift from Valek Rybis. You know what? Rybis hasn't had many memorable moments this race, but my god, that was one drifting through that turn. My hat's off to you, sir. Oh, madam.
Incredible car control. That was awesome.
Always like to see a good drift at full grip motorsport, and sometimes we do see it, sometimes we don't. And this was thankfully a time where we did get to see it. As Dan Leeson's now going to exit the pits, has lost another position now in P5, Ella 6 in P4, good drive from them. And now Dan Leeson sits between R6 and Florian Brown in P6, so not bad exit for Leeson, especially with Isinger still yet to pit as well. The only other one that has not finished all three mandatory pit stops is Laszlo Skak now in that Ferrari P17 for the Brit.
That's very interesting. Dan Leeson taking the early pit stop. He's gonna have to last 50 minutes plus an extra lap on those tires, and I really have to wonder, with how rough this B&W treats those tires, especially with the amount of power it puts out coming onto the straights. Ooh, Dan Leeson's gonna have to be very conscious of taking care of this machine.
Yeah, very conscious indeed. And here you see Blake Lewis just behind Dan Leeson, who has been lapped already, but still Lewis needs to get ahead of Leeson, and the Leeson is going to be under blue flag rule, so it's going to have to give up the spot eventually, though, as Leeson still has something to work with them. Although on cold tyres, Leeson's going to struggle a lot to even think about trying to hold on for as long as he can. And on this main straight, I think it's just going to be a case of being forced to give up the spot to Blake Lewis, although Lewis is actually seemingly struggling actually to get a hold of Dan Leeson, so I think maybe that's an issue with the tyres as well for Blake Lewis, who's needing to come into the pits once again within these last 26 minutes. So interesting there, and Lewis still has a long way to go in terms of back markers. You can see 3 of the back markers in front of him there.
Yeah, man, and Blake Lewis, you can see, watch him go through some of these corners, you can tell that the tires are starting to give out on him. He does not have as much grip as he wants to have. As we watch him, you can see the way his tires are giving out. He is going to have to come in for a pit stop relatively soon or risk losing it all. Whoa! Okay, Blake Lewis getting into the side of Dan Leeson there. I'm not particularly sure what went down, but Dan Leeson flashing his headlights, possibly not.
I was about to say, you can see Dan Leeson really not happy about that from Blake Lewis, and still flashing the lights at Blake Lewis. Really not happy with the McLaren driver's conduct there, and I honestly don't think I blame him there. It was very ambitious from Blake Lewis, who was at this point I think just frustrated that he was trying to get past Dan Leeson on the cold tyres. So
yeah, man, that was a ill-advised move from Blake Lewis there. I'm not particularly sure what he was thinking. Maybe a mistake. I'm not sure, but that definitely could have been a big issue for both of those drivers. And now he's putting a hold on Dan Leeson, and Dan Leeson, frustrated, definitely not going to give him any quarter or any grace here on these next couple laps.
I was about to say, this might make Dan Leeson actually start to fight with Blake Lewis a bit, just out of pure annoyance over what happened there, because it's such an interesting thing you don't want to happen, but now that it has happened, it sort of feels like the floodgates have now been opened for these. And look at Leeson just starting to be a bit of a nuisance to Lewis, and even though he's not making the pass, he's still fighting and making Lewis lose time. And look at this side-by-side action here between a back marker and Blake Lewis. And going into this hairpin now, Lewis gets ahead for now, but I mean, this is a fight that we weren't expecting. Leeson in P5, Lewis in P2, and this is just made out of pure annoyance and a want for vengeance.
Yeah, Matt, gloves are off at this point. Dan Leeson, I'm not in the car with him, but I can tell you, he said, "You bump me, I'm gonna bump you right back. I'm going to make your life as hard as possible these next couple laps until you pit. Because do you want to run me like that? I promise you I can run you just as hard. So this is about to be very, very interesting between these two.
Yeah, and if you're Marius Issenger, you don't know this is happening, but you're licking your lips because you keep getting into him. You don't really know why. 43 seconds away is Marius Issenger in P3, but still, the German gains time on Blake Lewis, and so Darton Leeson, I mean, I'm not sure what the end goal really is for the BMW driver, but if it's screwing over Blake Lewis, it's going to be interesting to see how that happens.
Absolutely, and at this point, Dan Leeson, your strategy, especially on the early pit stop strategy, you should be conserving these tires and fuel, because you have to make them last for so long. And this fighting up here with Blake Lewis is just burning his stuff off even faster. So Dan Leeson, I understand that he is frustrated, but best course of action right now is to let it go. Whoa! Dan!
What on earth?
What has happened here?
Leeson's just put it into the wall. I'm not sure what happened there, but
oh my gosh.
I really don't know what happened there. Leeson just looked like he just put it into the wall, and I think he had that time. He got a time penalty for ignoring the visual cues because of that blue flag, and so was still fighting with Blake Lewis. And we'll go into a replay of what happened there. But I think Leeson, I don't know. I really don't know why they just put it into the wall. But here's the contact between Leeson and Blake, and yeah, Leeson just. Blake, sorry, just really getting to the side of Leeson there. But Leeson, I'm really not sure what happened. And has now just returned to the pits. And yeah, look at that. Just a hard hit from Lewis there, just to get that overtake in.
And then I was in the middle of saying, just, you need to get your head on straight, calm down, and keep running your race. I have no idea the issue that happened between Dan Leeson there. Oh my gosh, dropping all the way back to 8th place. I know I think I can taste the salt in the air from here. Terribly upsetting for Dan Leeson, whatever happened. My gosh.
Yeah, I think there might be a bit of afters here, and thankfully it's not real life, because I think there might be a bit of a fist fight if there was, but I think at worst it's just a few messages exchanged and then leave it for tomorrow, but definitely a possibility for some real afters there, and it's now Dan Leeson, who actually has retired from the race after that. So Leeson was doing well so far, but just could not stand losing the place in that way to Blake Lewis. Even though it was P5 and P2 fighting, just couldn't stand that overtake.
It just hurts to see. And I'm not positive that he lost his cool or whatever, man, but especially when someone's running you that hard and you get frustrated and you keep making mistakes one after the other. I honestly, man, I've been in that position before too. I cannot blame Dan Leeson for alt F4ing. I cannot blame him. Especially after 2 hours, 15 minutes, you're fighting. Guess it just boils over.
Yeah, and there we just saw Jinder Chan and Blake Lewis go for a bit of a drift on that corner, except Jinder Chan went far, far wider on that corner. But Blake Lewis made the overtake anyway, but still a lot of time behind Sato Vincho. And Marius Issenger as well, something to note, is gone into the pits now, so your top 3 is now Sato Vincho, Blake Lewis and LS6, who still has to make their final pit stop coming into this, but still, good, well done, very well done from LS6, and also definitely a driver of the day contender. I think the silence there from Hunter is an agreement with me that LS6 could be a contender, at least for driver of the day. I think it's between LS6, Oliver Dixon, and of course Chateau Vincho, or at least for right now.
Can you hear me, Matt?
I can hear you, Hunter.
I had a headset malfunction. Would you like to ask me that question one more time?
Well, I was just saying, LS6 is now in P3 and has done fantastically throughout the race. Wow. And I was just saying to you, you know, if there is a driver of the day competition, I think our 3, it would have to be Chateau Vincho, Oliver Dixon, and the French driver of LS6.
I am in complete agreement with you right there, especially from LS6 and Mr. Dixon. has been a great, great showing out of these two today, and they're both. I know Dixon is a first-time FGM racer. LS6 is too as well, right?
Well, it's a Hungaroring debut for LS6, and Oliver Dixon is not a full Grip Motorsport debut. It's not even a Hungaroring debut, but 2 top 5 finishes at Hungary, which one of those was Uring with a win with the most recent race being a P13 finish at this course. So definitely not a newbie is Oliver Dixon, but I think you could see that experience that he's had, and you can see that the boy's been practicing.
Absolutely, yeah. I was going to say, if this was his full Grip Motorsport debut, that is absolutely incredible. But Hungaroring debut, just as good. Very, very cool to see these guys out here coming out, running well, especially from LS6, running in 3rd place. We got some heavy hitters, man. Some of our other heavy hitters have dropped out of the race, obviously, Wesley van der Linden, Dan Leeson, but it's good to see. Good to see LS6 up here having a great race.
Yeah, this is one of the... I mean, it's never nice to see a big gun go out, but when they do it go out, it gives chances for people who we don't really talk about much to get into these positions and get into the limelight a bit more, like LS6, like Oliver Brown. Then they can get into the frame and the spotlight a bit, and you know, just well deserved. As you can see now, it's getting slightly darker. 5:25 is in game. Bit earlier or a bit later than that, or at least in the UK right now, and a bit later for that actually in mainland Europe. I'm not sure what it is in America, Hunter, but I know it's not that early.
Yeah, we're sitting at about 3:45 p.m. right now. Nice day outside. You know, about as hot as the devil's trousers, but we're doing good over here.
Seeing how LS6 comes in, and it's actually not repaired that back damage. It's not been a priority for LS6 as they come into the pits, and so definitely just keeping an eye on it, but not affecting their drive too much. As we go back in with Chateau Vinto, who's doing yet another lap of these back markers, taking Hugo Moller down with ease, and Chateau Vinto just really going for it. I believe that is Emil Antonsson you can see in the back there. It is indeed flashing the headlights, so just wanting to be in the spotlight a bit more. I think actually wanting to get past Hugo Moller, who slams on the brakes just there.
Yeah, watching Certo Vincho just run this track, man, you really get an idea just how good he is. And watching his delta and lap times, everything of the sort, he's just so good. So much poise, so much focus. It's incredible. Absolute domination today.
Well, here, this is an interesting battle here. Marius Issenger versus Blake Lewis. It's not going to be for P2 because Issenger is a lap down compared to Blake Lewis, but makes the pass anyway, although it's immediately going to have to give that back because Blake Lewis, as I said, is a lap ahead of him, and so Issenger makes that move and is going to have to let Lewis go, but I think he's just trying to slow him down a bit. Maybe try and get a P2 fight going with his last 38 minutes, although I really doubt that's the case. And actually, it could just be a case of Issenger seeing the same fate as Dan Leeson and potentially getting a penalty because of it.
Yeah, man, I think Marius Issenger, being that he has no more pit stops remaining, he is actually in a better position right now than P2 is. P2 still has to make his final pit stop. So Marius Issenger putting on this amount of time from P2 right here. We'll see how it cycles out, but Mr. Lewis still has 1 pit stop remaining. Marius Issenger, 0 pit stops remaining. So every second he puts on P2 here is another second that he's going to be at advantage when he pits.
Yeah, nearly 2 minutes away is the difference between Lewis and Issenger here. So Lewis still has a good amount of time to pit and get away, but he's going to be driving on those cold tyres, whereas Issenger is going to be on warm tyres. So it will be interesting to see if this is the time where Blake Lewis is going to decide to go into the pits, and I believe, no, he hasn't, never mind. I thought he had just gone in for the pits, but actually you can see the amount of time being gained here by Issinger and Lewis. So those blue flags I think are still flying. Yeah, they're still flying, but it's Issinger actually gaining time on Lewis here. So this could really be a nail-biter end for Blake Lewis here.
Yeah, Blake Lewis, man, if I saw the guy behind me on fresher tires putting down seconds and biting into my lap time, I probably would have pitted last lap. If he doesn't pit this lap, I think he's going to be in a very tough position come these the final stint of the race. It's going to be tough because if Marius Issinger comes out ahead.
Yeah, and especially now Issinger getting now a PB, a 144.36, and you can just see the pace that he's bringing as well. He's got open road ahead of him. There's, I believe that's Voda ahead of him. Yes, it is in the Ferrari. But apart from that, he's got straight tracks, and even then, with Voda ahead of him, he's still got time before he even gets to the back end of Voda. So it's really going to be interesting to see how much time Issinger is being allowed to gain from Lewis before Lewis decides, actually, this is the time where I need to pit.
Yeah, Lewis, you know it's going through his mind too, seeing Marius Issinger drive further and further away. He knows he has got to come out ahead of this guy on pit lane, and the fact that he's driving away from you right now means that he might beat you out. Like when you pit and when someone's behind you, you have that thought process. You're like, okay, yeah, I can get out of the pits and I'm still going to be ahead. The fact that he's faster right now gives me the vibe that Mr. Lewis is going to have to pit very shortly if he did not just pit right now.
He did just pit right now.
Okay.
Blake Lewis is in the pit for the final pit stop, and there's only a few races that have a pit stop left to go. Sherto Vincho being one of them. Ger Sarabia currently in the pits. Flying Brown in need of that pit stop, as well as Oliver Dixon, and in P13 of course it's Barnabas in the Porsche, who all those drivers still need to make that pit stop, although Barnabas is actually in the pit, so Barnabas no longer needs that final pit, and so Lewis is now going to be free from that mandatory pit. LS6 though, big went to the pits, got overtaken by Marius Issinger, and now has a time penalty for crossing the pit exit line.
Oh man, hate to see that.
Hate to see it indeed, but Issinger, he's just foot down, pedal to the metal, trying to make as much time as he can towards Blake Lewis. The time gap has dropped under 50 seconds now, and it's rapidly approaching under 40, but Blake Lewis now on the roll. Now looking to get back onto this main straight. 39 seconds is the gap between Issinger and Lewis, although it will be getting slower because of the cold tyres. Blake Lewis on, and at the top there, Valiant Penguin. The last place is disqualified. I'm not too sure what for, but a disqualification late on for the Lamborghini driver.
Oh man. Raced almost the whole race, and to get disqualified here in the final 40 minutes, that's rough. I feel bad for Mr. Penguin there. Really rough.
Yeah, he DNF'd the last Hungaroring, and his best ever finish was a P3 at Silverstone. Just not going to get anywhere near that today, as we still see Issinger, and it's the back end of the BMW of I believe that's Valek Rybescu is forced to go wide under blue flag rules, and that's another driver who I think has actually been very underrated today. Valek Rybisk, his full Grip Motorsport debut. It's not saying anything on fire. It's still P11 with a stop and go penalty of 30 seconds. But actually, he has impressed me, and I think it's a very impressive debut to have for Valek Rybisk.
Yeah, he's done really well today, man. The BMWs we know were strong. Dan Leeson showing out in his before his untimely retiring just a couple minutes ago. But Rybisk coming in that number 94 BMW has put on a show today. Trying to make his way into the top 10. I don't know how possible that's going to be. He's about a minute 23 seconds behind Voda at the moment, but he's going to try and get there.
Yeah, we do have a replay on that disqualification for Valiant Penguin. which we will be going to just now. Let's see what this is for as we on the front straight.
Whoa!
No, I mean, little braking there. Is absolutely no braking there as he goes into the back end. I'm not sure of which car that is, but it's, I mean, I don't think you could recognise it if you looked from the back end now. Just completely rams into him, and Valiant Penguin, that's just a poor showing. That's just frustration, and it's poor from Penguin.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can't, and that's what we were talking about earlier with emotions, and it's late in the race. You haven't had an amazing day. You just cannot let them control you like that. And I don't know if that was just a mistake, but that looked pretty intentional. You know when you have to brake, and you just really have to watch out, especially poor Arav there. He didn't do anything that I saw, and there's nothing really that ever warrants a hard collision like that. So either that's poor sportsmanship or that's just a really bad mistake. But either way, it's not a good showing.
Yeah, really poor. If it's a mistake, then still it's going to be difficult to really go in and try and argue against. And it's not what you want to see at full grip motorsport. Even in any motorsport, it's just really not what we want to see. But moving on to some of the better stuff now, as we go into our last half an hour, is LS6 in P4. Still has that 5-second penalty, but is far, far away from Florian Braun. Actually, I say far, far away. Only 16 seconds, but still not too bad.
Yeah, and LS6 about 8.9 or 9 flat behind Marius Isinger. So he's going to try. He's got a chance. He got 30 more minutes to see if he can make it up into the top 3. Try and get a podium today.
Yes, indeed. And here is Florian Braun now in number 31 car, just coming through, and the McLaren has had a few up and downs today. Had that spin out earlier with Emil Antonsson and all of that, whose collisions and battles with the Swedish driver, but has actually recovered quite well into P5, as has Antonsson in P7.
Yeah, man, it's just been a good showing today. Like, this entire race has been really, really fun. It's so cool to watch these guys go around this technical circuit here, riding on board Florian Braun. And this McLaren going to take his final pit stop right here. We'll see where he cycles out into the field. Enters pit lane in 5th.
Yeah, joining him in the pit is the number 94 of Valiant Rybisk, who is serving the stop and go 30-second penalty. So we will be going back with Gail Sarabia now, who's had an up and down, being at the forefront, I think, of a lot of incidents today. Firstly, Wesley van der Linden, who he didn't touch, but we had a perfect view. I think a lot of people would pay for to see Wesley van der Linden go into a wall, but then that second incident, Gail Sarabia definitely had a hand in.
Yeah, that was just kind of a mess. And Marius Isinger around! 3rd place car! That is going to allow LS6 right up on his bumper. Oh my goodness, Matt.
I mean, LS6 is now in a position. It went from worrying and thinking about, is Isinger going to try and make this move onto Blake Lewis and try and slow him down, maybe play really tactically. And now it's gone from, can Marius Isinger hold on to podium in this last half an hour as LS6 comes in and is looking for this podium. And look how close that the Frenchman is getting towards the back end of the German. This is a really interesting battle that's going to come in this last half an hour. Only 5 minutes to go on the pit window, by the way, before it closes, but 2 Ferraris now in the front straight. Which one has the better top speed? Well, is it Isinger? Is it LS6? Isinger's gone wide to try and make a move, or trying to defend that inside line of LS6, and will do so, but LS6 is going to go wide, gets that better run in on the inside, and so there's actually regained that time of Marius Isinger, but still Isinger keeps a small gap of 0.2 of a second and has to keep those in that corner to try and save off LS6. But LS6, it's not much time to work with, but there's still plenty of time to make this move. It's just about defending it.
Yeah, man, that was super exciting there. And you know LS6 is doing everything they can to get up past Marius Isinger here. They want to be the lead Ferrari. They want the podium. And Only thing standing in their way is Marius Isinger. Right here, right now. Podium battle, into the race. This is what it all comes down to right here. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, a grizzly veteran of full grip motorsport is Marius Isinger. Won in his previous Hungaroring race, top two finishes in his previous 2 races, and now looks to be kicked out. Will definitely be kicked out of the top 2, but can even be kicked out of the podium by someone making their Hungaroring debut. And so it's going to be so interesting who comes out on top here, the rookie or the veteran, as we see another disqualification with CXA, Arrow of the Indian, not having the greatest times this race, and now needing to stay in the pit lane for a disqualification. But and you know, LS6 does have that 5-second penalty though. This is what Issinger's banking on. Even if LS6 takes that overtaking, all Isinger has to do is just wait and try and keep within 5 seconds of the Ferrari, of the number 79. As LS6 goes right to the bumper of Isinger. And I tell you what, for someone who is a rookie here in Hungary, they're really acting like a veteran.
Yeah, LS6 has came to drive today. Love the showing I'm seeing, and I love the respect between these 2 guys. 2 Ferraris duking it out for a podium spot. LS6, like you said, has that time penalty. So if they get by, it is going to be extreme. If not, it is going to be paramount that LS6 drives the wheels off this car, trying to eliminate that time penalty between the 2. But he has to get by first.
But as well, there is also some strategy that LS6 can do to try and get Isinger a penalty as well. Isinger's been threatened with a few penalties so far, but they've been rescinded by the race stewards. But now if Isinger gets one here, it allows LS6 to come far back in. And then it becomes just a complete brawl for this podium finish, as Isinger still manages to maintain 0.2 of a second, 0.3 of a second now ahead of LS6. But LS6 is driving the wheels off the thing to try and get in front of the opposing Ferrari, but still just struggling in these corners to get the time gap reduced. And that's something that a lot of drivers have struggled with, reducing the time gaps in these corners. No matter if you're driving something that's strong in the corners, whether something is not, it's really difficult for these corners to come in and actually assist you. It's always going to go in the defending side, and so you have to try and get it on the straights. And if your car doesn't have that top speed, it's really a difficult day in the office for you.
Yeah, especially not compromising your exit on some of these corners. We've seen that a lot today. They have a really good entry, but as they come out, something messes them up, be it getting loose, be it a lapped car or the car in front of them. It has been really difficult for overtakes to get done, even into the easiest overtaking zone on the circuit, turn 1. So, LS6, what is the move here? What is going through their head? Are they trying to force a mistake out of Marius to even the playing field, or are they going to try and pass them on full pace? 24 minutes remaining. Going to make a decision very, very soon.
Yeah, a decision has to be made. And as well, when you look at the map, who's ahead of Marius Isinger, you have the 813 of Hugo Moller, who has been shown constantly to just slow down when there's a back marker, when there's racers ahead of that are ahead of him, that are just behind him. They're about to lap him. That's probably a better way to say that. Just giving them the full respect, got the brakes and said, nope, you can have it. But ahead of Hugo Moller is the 46 of Ilias Jonet, which is really interesting because I'm not really sure you've seen Jonet much with a back marker sort of sticker on. So it's going to be interesting to see what Jonet does and how willingly they give up a position, how willing they are to let Isinger and 6 overtake them, or if they will just want to try and hold on for as long as they can. As Hugo Moller is forced to go into the pit lane for just a second, while Isinger gets on the lights behind them, and now gets onto this start-finish line.
Yeah, and LS6 not going to be close enough to make anything happen here. Going to try and utilize all the slipstream they can. I'm just not sure they're going to be able to even utilize the slip. Just a little too far back, a little later on the brakes there for LS6. Trying everything they can. Marius Isinger seems to have that Ferrari dialed in where he wants it right now. Just riding out, not making mistakes, trying to do the best they can right here. What a great battle.
Yeah, pit lane now shut. Everyone's made their mandatory 3 pit stops. And you know, when we talk about Islinger being a veteran, it's not only of these races and full Grip Motorsport, it's also in this Ferrari. It's no, the German has favoured the Ferrari for so long. I think he's actually driven, I'm not sure, we'll have to check the stats on this, but I think he's driven every FGM race in a Ferrari, although I think towards the start is where my knowledge gets a bit more rusty. So there's a chance right at the start Islinger was like, oh, I want to drive some more stuff, see what happens. But as far as I'm aware, Islinger has just been a Ferrari monster, and so it's not only the fact you're going against the veteran of these tracks, of these everything, it's for the Ferrari, but Islinger rider just slammed on the brakes! Islinger's gone right, slammed on the brakes, LO6 is in P3 now, and Islinger, a big mistake from the German there, that came from nothing, but still keeps on the back end of LO6 now, and has got 21 minutes to try and regain his position, or just try and stay with LS6 and make that 5-second penalty the difference between a podium and not, as LS6 looks to go a little bit wide there, but Islinger still hoping to try and get all around the bumper of LS6 is now on the front straight. Only 0.4 of a second the gap between these two Ferrari drivers, and we've seen how good Islinger can be on a straight, but it actually looks like LS6 is, I don't know if they're gaining, but they're keeping the gap the same. As Islinger tries to go on the inside before 6, doesn't get it, and is actually starting to slowly lose time as LS6 creeps ahead.
He compromised his corner there, trying to take the inside line, and that's going to give the advantage to LS6 coming in this corner. Marius Islinger not letting any time slip through his fingers. But oh my goodness. I'd like to see if we can get a replay on what happened to Marius Islinger there. That was incredible. LS6 gifted P3 from the heavens. Going to try put some time on P4. Oh my goodness, Matt.
But there's two problems. But one, it's a P3 in quotation marks because they have that 5-second penalty with LS6. And plus now, you've got to think, does the pressure now get fully released from Marius Islinger, because he's now made the mistake and has now got no one on his bumper, so now all he has to do is just try and make LS6 have a mistake, or even just to keep up with LS6 and keep driving how he is, because he's losing the time slowly, 0.5 of a second away now, but if he can just keep it under 5 seconds, he will still finish in P3 because of that time penalty. And you can see Islinger, they're getting a bit loose on that turn. 7 tenths of a second away now. But for LS6 now, the pressure, I think, is on them to actually get away from this Ferrari.
Yeah, because he's going to know. He is going to know that he is now ahead. He has to put the pedal to the metal and run his fastest laps possible, because I know Marius Islinger is not going to let this guy out of his sight. If Ella wants to come away with a P3, he's going to have to fight. And he's going to have to fight hard.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting as well when you look at the best laps between these two. Islinger's best lap, 144.060. LS6, 144.757. A massive difference in the difference between the best laps of these two races. Islinger looks towards the outside of LS6. Not going to be able to make the move though, but it's reduced that deficit down in time to 0.3 of a second, and actually could be looking towards a move fairly soon. It's not going to be in towards this corner, the gap is just too big, but coming out of this corner, this has been where LS6 managed to get that overtake on Islinger after the mistake was made, and looks to the inside, but it's not going to be able to get it. It has to just ride the rear of LS6, and I think that is also a problem. We've seen the damage on the rear of LS6, and I think that is starting to play a part in the fact that they just cannot get away from the German driver of Islinger.
Yeah, and Islinger's not going to let L6 out of his sight. I know he knows exactly what's at stake here. So I really wonder what's going through his head. Is he just trying to stay within 5 seconds? Just managing his pace, managing his gap, being sure not to make a mistake. Maybe even trying to stay close to the bumper to force a mistake out of L6. We don't know where his head's at, but we've only got 18 minutes to go. We're going to know here very, very shortly.
One mistake here for either of these two will be enough to have their place cemented. It's just about who falls first. Islinger's right on the bumper of L6, reducing that down to 0.1 of a second. Can Islinger potentially make a move at the turn 1? He's going to look towards the inside, and LF6 gets on the brakes quickly. Issenger goes for the dive and goes wide, and then LF6 manages to retake that with a switchback as we up the time back again to 0.5 of a second.
Yeah, man, and you could see just Marius Isinger, his head, clearly he wants the position flat out. He doesn't want to play any ticky-tacky time penalty games. He wants it fair and square. So he's going to go for it. We just saw the aggression coming in. 17 minutes remaining now. Marius Isinger not giving any mercy.
This is dangerous though. One mistake, it even just hit both of them, and it just becomes a pure scrap as to, if both of these drivers go out and make contact or they spin out together, it's going to be interesting to see who gets back on the track quicker, and that time gap, if that is to happen, and that only really happens if Isinger goes really hard and aggressive like they did in that turn one just now. It's such an interesting battle of strategy now with what Isinger wants to do, but as you said, it looks to be aggression from Isinger, wanting to get that space back and have no questions and do it as legitimately as possible, because it's legitimate if the person ahead of you gets a time penalty, sure, but if they can have a time penalty and you get in P3 anyway and finish there instead of having to rely on a time penalty. It's great stuff, and I think as well for Isinger, they'll be aware of LS6's time penalty, but I don't think they'll know what for. So I think actually Isinger sat there thinking that the stewards might review it and it could be taken away at any moment. But we know that's not the case.
Yeah, and that could go through his head at any point. What exactly? Because I don't believe he knows exactly how big the time penalty is either. So he wants to stay within 5 seconds, I know, but in his ideal world, he's passing for P3 and not even worrying about the time penalty at all. Just going to do it straight off a pace. I believe that's where he wants to be right now.
Yeah, it's something that Isinger has to try and get ahead of, but he has to get out of his own head. There's no rain or anything coming in. It's sunny, it's a little bit cloudy, but it's mainly sunny. Optimal track conditions. This is where drivers need to put their pedal to the metal. There's a bit of wind speed coming in the opposite direction, but that might actually help some of these drivers come through into these corners. 21 degrees Celsius on the track, well, in the air, track temperature's a little bit higher. I don't know why I'm saying this now, like it's going to make much of a difference, but this is just going to come down to pure pace and pure strategy as to what happens with Marius Isinger, who is 0.8 of a second away, so it's actually still losing time to LS6 there, and that's a positive sign for LS6, but it's really now starting to concern you a bit if you're Isinger that you are losing time.
Yeah, especially down those back straights, or not back straight, back corners back there. If you're starting to lose time, and we still have about 15 minutes left in this race, that's a good 10-ish laps. So, or more like 8 laps. Does he have time to outrun Marius Isinger? As you see now, he's gonna, I thought he was gonna launch it up the inside. But is there time enough for him to run away without a mistake from Marius here? I don't know. Yeah, we'll just have to see.
I want to know as well between these two is that even though they're right behind each other and LS6 is still in front, LS6 is actually, I believe that's 3/100ths of a slower, 3/100ths slower than Marius Isinger. So Isinger's still going through and trying just to fight, and there's contact between them.
Oh no!
Isinger spun out at 6. It's
that has gone so bad. That is P3 and P4.
P3 and P4, and LS6 has gone zooming past. The gap is now 2 seconds between those two. It's unbelievable drama. 13 minutes to go, and LS6 is in P3, 2.4 seconds ahead of Marius Isinger. It's disastrous for the German.
And we'll see what the stewards call there. That looked like Marius Isinger just got a little bit too aggressive, and we'll see if he gets a time penalty for that. That could put a wrench in his entire race. Marius Isinger is going to have to be on throttle, ready, and trying to catch LS6 before the end of this race, because if they're on even footing here with that time penalty, man, oh man.
Yeah, and look at the damage as well with Marius Issenger. We have a replay of that incident coming down just to see what really happened. Get another look at that between Issenger and LS6. We'll go on board with Marius Issenger now. Just round this corner. I think this might have been... Oh yeah, actually... I'm not sure if that was... I'm not sure what that was, in all honesty. I think we are just going through some of the earlier replays there. Here we go. This is... no, this is an earlier replay still, but this is fights between these two that has been going back and forth for so long. And even though we're going past all of these replays, they're all showing the same two, LS6 and Marius Issenger. Here I believe is the incident between the two, and Issenger just goes for a complete lunge, loses it,
oh
and
my goodness. Just sending it on the inside. Very, very liberal with that brake pedal. Did not wind up working out for him. Got into the side of LS6, spun them both around, and now LS6 with the advantage. Yeah, advantage for LS6, but only 1.4 seconds ahead of Issenger. So Issenger still behind LS6 just about, but I don't think there's looking to be penalties with Marius Issenger, but if there is a 5-second penalty with Marius Issenger, he will finish behind LS6, and so would need to overtake the driver, the French driver, coming into this, as they both would have 5-second penalties, although Issenger, I think the stewards are still maybe having a look and seeing if there is enough to justify it, but Issenger just keeps falling behind now. Was just 2 seconds away, and is actually, the gap is now increasing to 2 seconds, and I think if one more mistake out of Issenger and it's done. That was a mistake from Issenger, but it was good enough to try and stay away. At least he messes up LS6 as well, so the time isn't that bad. But Issenger, a 5-second time penalty for that collision. Now the onus is on Issenger. He has to get into P3 to get into that podium. He can no longer rely on a time penalty. Here we go, Matt. Here we go. Final 10 minutes coming up here. Battle for a podium. Oh, we love to see it. 1.6 seconds is the gap between LS6 and Marius Issenger. Issenger desperate to try and get that back. Issenger's been fighting for the podium near enough. The race had an awful start and spun out early on, but managed to claw his way back into the top 3 positions, but then just lapses of judgment, and including that there. And now the pressure is not only with LS6 to stay ahead and not make mistakes, it's now on Issenger to reduce that gap and get ahead of LS6. Both of the drivers have a 5-second time penalty. LS6 is actually somewhat slow in that chicane. It's just been allowed to catch up a bit. 1.5 seconds now the gap. Yeah, man, it's going to come down. Ooh, it's going to come down to these final couple minutes. This is so exciting. Love to see it for LS6 having a great race. Marius Issenger coming from plenty of mistakes, trying to secure this podium, and that just goes to show how fast he is. He could have just an awful race, still running up here in the top, trying to re-secure this podium. Him and LS6 both on equal footing. It's going to come down to who finishes ahead of the other, Matt. Exciting finish to this race coming up here. And this makes me feel like I'm watching cards again. I know it's a very... I'm far too old to be saying that, but it feels like it is just the case of the rookie versus the legend. Marius Issenger, P4, LS6, P3, rather your top 2, Blake Lewis and P2, Chateau Vincho, P1. But this is where all the action is. Who will get this final podium spot? Will it be the German of Marius Issenger, the legend? Will it be the rookie of LS6, the French driver, who's going slow in these corners, really trying to pace themselves? And now the gap is shrinking, just under a second now is the gap between these two, as Marius Issenger is on the hunt to try and get into P3. 8 minutes to go. Oh man, so exciting. LS6 here. You gotta feel nervous. You got a legend hawking you down, and Marius Issenger just sending it through that corner. My goodness, he wants this podium bad. Yeah, Issenger sending it down into the corners, but that was the mistake he made before, and he cannot afford to make it again. One more collision, and Issenger is completely done.
cannot even begin to try and fight this now. Issenger still behind LS6 as the gap 0.6 of a second between these two. Only yellow conditions is such an interesting race coming in. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with these two drivers. And I believe at the top, I'm not too sure, but I think there might have been a Porsche on the yellow flag. There was yellow flags waving. I think it might have been a Porsche that was spun out, or it might have been someone that was spun out. I don't know who it was at the top on the start finish line there, but look at the gap between Issenger and LS6 now. 0.3 of a second in this straight. These two fairly equal, nothing really to separate these two. And it's all about LS6. Can they break the slipstream? Bit of an early break there, it looks like.
He's gonna go for it!
And it's gonna look to go for it. Goes down the inside of LS6. Can they get it? Issenger's forced onto the grass a little bit, so now side by side around that turn 1. Now Issenger, LS6 into turn 2. Can they make a difference? Issenger goes for a lunge down, but LS6 has the inside line, gonna keep the nose in front for now. But Issenger still fighting, still side by side, going in high speed corner, and still Issenger fighting, but it's LS6 to come out victorious this time.
Full Grip Motorsport, that is what we are all about. Look at this, folks. Oh, the rookie and the vet duking it out. Oh my gosh, 6 minutes, 10 seconds remain.
I mean, what a battle this is to get into a podium. LS6 desperately trying to hold on. Issenger going desperately trying to make a move there. And I think that both of them are their desperation is really starting to hurt them and slow them down a bit. LS6 coming in, trying to make this a win at the last race at Spa and then a podium in this race in Hungary. And Issenger now, oh my god, there's a drive-through penalty for Marius Issenger. With only 5 minutes to go, Issenger, I'm not sure what that was given for, if there was something that happened or if there was track limits or something. But this is an absolute disaster for Issenger. Wow. His race is near enough done and he's going to go into the pits now. That sums it up. LS6 in P3. Issenger's not going to have a chance to even catch up to LS6. And that looks to be your podium.
Wow, Matt. And that just goes to show you that aggression, that desperation that these guys are going through. It will force mistakes. And I know LS6's nerves are shot. He's going to come around, and I think he's going to nurse it for about 5 more minutes. Let them hands stop shaking while he comes through turn 2 around Hamilton. Looks to have P3 locked up for now.
Wow. What an absolute... I'm out of words. I truly am. It's incredible. But actually, I think that drive-through was actually rescinded, and I mean, I don't know what happened. I think that drive-through might have actually been rescinded because he went into the pits and then has come straight back out, and it looks like that drive-through penalty. I don't think it was served, well, it definitely wasn't served. But now he's out of the pits and is now just going along. So I think actually he went in to try and serve it. It got rescinded, and now LS6 has just been given a free P3.
Oh, goodness.
I'm not too sure. We'll wait for official confirmation from the stewards, but I really don't know what's happened there.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but I know Issenger is fuming upset no matter what the case. And I know LS6 was happy to see that. Wow, wow, wow. What an incredible battle, fighting for so long. And the rookie looks to have one out. Under 3 minutes 30 seconds remaining now. Probably got about 2-3 laps left in the race. LS6.
And it was a drive-through penalty, so he did serve it. He just drove through the pits. In my head, for some reason, I thought it was a stop and go. Don't know why, but served it immediately. Marius Issenger, drive-through penalty, and it was for track limits. So, a really unfortunate way for Marius Issenger to end the race. But we go on with Carlo Vincio, and this is a lap between these two now. This Roberto Vincio now just lapping Blake Lewis again. 100 laps for the Aston Martin now, 99 for Blake Lewis. So phenomenal drives from both these drivers.
Isn't it just incredible? The first place car has lapped the second place car on just pure pace. That just goes to show you just the skill and prowess of Certo Vincio. And we've got a replay coming up here of Marius Isinger's track limits that resulted in that drive-through.
Yeah, and so it's here on this turn, and yeah, it was interesting. I think it's barely over the curb, and I think it's all 4 tyres off the curb onto the outside, and yeah, you can just see
right there
off the curb, barely. And it's just so unlucky for the German.
Oh. Wow, Matt. And that just goes to show you pushing, trying to get every single ounce and inch of track that you can. And eventually that pushing is going to push you too hard. And it wound up biting Marius Isinger. What a great battle beforehand, though.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and it just goes to show you how little the margins are in racing like this, how little is required for you to make that mistake, and how, like, not even a moment of a lapse of judgment can completely ruin your race. And Marius Isinger has now gone from fighting for P3, a podium, to now just having to rot in fourth. But you heard the communications there from race control. Certo Vincio now, final lap, minute to go.
It's just what a banger of a race today, man. Absolutely, start to finish, Hungaroring puts on a show. Golly, man, I have nothing else to say other than what a race. Certo Vincio, of course, absolute domination. We've seen some great driving today. Mr. Lewis in second place, rounding out the first of the cars a lap down. Just incredible, man. Ella6, the rookie at the Hungaroring, just incredible. And Matt, go ahead. I'll let you take us from here.
Yeah, with only 5 seconds to go in the race, and we'll be coming towards the checkered flag now for Certo Vincio, who has had a phenomenal race once again. Looks to have really is going to finish in P1 after another phenomenal race as we go into the final few hairpin turns here. But we will get a few finishes before him though, but I think we'll just stay on with Certo Vincio for now, because this is the main attraction. This is what you want to see. This is why you subscribe to Full Grip Motorsport, why you follow on Twitch, why you keep updated with these races no matter when or where they happen, because of stuff like this. So Certo Vincio comes around the final corner of the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's a P1 finish for Certo Vincio, P2 for Blake Lewis. A phenomenal drive from the Aston Martin. Once again, Blake Lewis at P2, a great drive from the McLaren, and it's the first and second qualification who finish in first and second.
Yeah, Matt, what a race, dude. It's just so good throughout the entire thing. I don't know who we're giving driver of the day, but I think we should make a new award called the Certo Vincio Award, and it is for absolute domination.
I mean, you can do that, and we'll just give it to Certo Vincio every time they race. We can do that, but I think for driver of the day for me, there's a few standouts. Obviously Certo Vincio, obviously Oliver Dixon, but for me there's someone who my heart goes with, and that is Ella6, who has been incredible this race, and you know, even in that massive battle with Marius Isinger, really held their own. And so in my opinion, I think driver of the day has to go towards Ella6.
And I have no qualms with that, brother. Ella6 is your Hungarian Grand Prix driver of the day for Full Grip Motorsport.
Full Grip Motorsport driver of the day, Full Grip Motorsport Hungaroring winner, Certo Vincio. Ella6 rounds out your top 3. Certo Vincio, Blake Lewis and Ella6, as we follow now on board with Marius Isinger, who that's a difficult way to end the race, as now he's spun, and actually this could be a moment for Florian Brown if he wasn't in the pits and already finished the race. But Isinger spinning out just towards the end, giving it a bit of flair. This has been a day where we've seen a lot of thrills and a lot of spills from near enough everyone on the grid, it feels like. And Marius Issenger just adding one more before we end this race. He gets into P4. Florian Brown will be finishing in P5. And so, to go through your full grid of the Hungarian Grand Prix, Chateau Vincio finishes in first with Blake Lewis, the American, in P2, LS6, the rookie, in P3, Marius Issenger, P4, Florian Brown, P5, Gael Sarabia fell off a bit in P6. Emil Antonsen recovered very well and got into P7 towards the end. Elias Jeannet in P8. Oliver Dixon, P9, made up so many positions, over 20 for the McLaren driver. Voda is in P11. Jinder Chan in P11. The complete rookie, the full Grip Motorsport rookie, Valek Rybisk, in P12 there. You can just see, well done, a very respectable drive from the rookie today as we go into P13. There. Been talking for a lot today. I even went and commentated something before this. So, you know, it's been a long day for me. But you can see there, Barnabash in P12. Laszlo Skaks in P15. Hugo Moller in P16, Mobile Games P17, and that will round up your Hungarian Grand Prix, your Hungaroring. What a day we've had today.
Absolutely, man. Just great racing, great show. Amazing. I don't know what was better, this week or Spa. Both were absolutely incredible races. Just so fun to see these guys around a technical course, very slippy, slidey, rough track. Great showing today.
Yeah, massive showing today. Thank you to all our drivers and all our viewers who have stuck by us today. As I've mentioned so many times before, if you want to keep updated with Full Grip Motorsport Racing, you can subscribe and follow on YouTube and Twitch, and get involved at fullgripmotorsport.com to see the events and get involved in them yourself. But we'll go through the highlights package of today, and I think there's no shortage of highlights coming in today.
Oh yeah, very exciting. Here we go.
I think our highlights package is a bit plugged, as we'll try that again, and we're going in reverse. I feel myself getting younger every moment, but yeah, we just have a few issues with our replay, and it's something that we just noticed. 1,010 seconds of time penalties this race. So many. But here we go. You can see the start of the race and how, I mean, start as you mean to go on, and that was a hell of a start.
Yeah, man, it's like fish in a barrel over there. You couldn't move an inch without touching another car. And as you get, whoa, I didn't even see that guy going super wide in the Ford outside. I didn't, wow. That was one of our Ford drivers. I believe he was disqualified today. Or did that get rescinded?
We got rescinded. It was a DNF from our Canadian Ford driver.
Oh, Lord. Ooh.
Yeah, there's Junker Max Payne. All this is happening on the first lap. I think it might be in the first two laps as Junker Max Payne gets into all. Elias Jean that there as well. Gail Sarabia. So there's Wesley van der Linden, who would retire shortly after.
I wonder what lap Paddy Thomas retired. I did not manage to catch that, but he was my driver today. I need to stop picking drivers because Bharat Badak last week didn't work out too well, and Paddy
Patrick
Thomas
Olsen
this week
at Silverstone.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna quit picking people. And then we had this incident with the.
Maybe next week you should pick Chateau Vincio and see what happens.
I think I should. Yeah, he might be mad at me.
Immovable force against. Or what's the saying?
Unstoppable force versus the immovable object.
Yeah.
And this was tough, man. Gail Sarabia getting into the back. Oh my gosh. Ooh, cut the corner too.
Yeah, this is with Blake Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah, RF and Blake Lewis getting into it, and there was just so much contact here between RF and a fair few others, I'd say.
Yeah. Arav didn't start that corner well. He cut the corner, managed to just I could get hit by Blake Lewis. I don't really know. I guess he was going too slow. And
Yeah, and just see here slam on the brakes, and Lewis no time to react.
That was just a bad move. Don't hit the brakes in the middle of the straight. That's not a great idea.
Yeah, and there's that move with LS6 and Marius Issenger in this fight, which was probably one of the best fights I've seen in my time commentating for full Grip Motorsport. Admittedly not long, but it's going to be very difficult to beat that.
Yeah, that was an insane battle, especially for podium. You know these guys are going as hard as they can. Evidently so. Issenger late on the brakes. Oh, man, this was such a good fight. Especially Issenger has the advantage. Or 6 has the advantage coming up in here. Marius Issenger riding along the outside. Just fighting for every possible inch. What a battle.
Incredible scenes here, and Issenger unlucky to get that drive-through penalty for track limits at the end. It feels like a harsh way to end that battle, but rules are there to be respected, and we'll get this in slow-mo once more. You can just see ahead there.
Right
L6
there.
And there's something I want to point out as well. There's something that confused me when we first saw that replay, is that LS6 was barely on that curb. It looked like it was so close to LS6 getting a drive-through penalty as well, but I think just about avoiding it by probably millimeters, I want to say.
Yeah, and both of those guys pushing, going as hard as they can. Not surprising